Welcome to the Crooked Media Super Tuesday election stream. I'm Jon Favreau.
I'm Jon Lovett.
I'm Tommy.
Dan Pfieffer.
Super Tuesday is finally here, guys. A total of 1,357 delegates are up for grabs, over one-third of the total. Delegates will be awarded proportionally based on a candidate's vote share in a state, but you must clear the 15% threshold to get any delegates, both statewide and in the congressional district. So, as we headed into today, there was a surge of Joe-mentum in all the polls, and so far it's bearing out in some of the early results. With us tonight and all night, we have Travis Hellwig, our own Steve Kornacki at the map, who's going to give us some results.
Oh, no.
Thanks, John. Hi, I'm Travis Hellwig. Consider me the Steve Kornacki whose friends have done salvia. I'll be making the calls tonight. Up here at the big board, we've got some great things to tell you already. There's a wall up between our newsroom and our hosts. As it comes in, I'll give it to you as fast as I can. I'm sad Chris Matthews is gone. Okay, we've got 4 calls to come up for you first. 4 calls. First, out of Virginia, we got Joe Biden. A lot of people didn't think he'd win there, and look at him running strong. Joe Biden. Okay, this is going to last all night. This bit is good. Okay, we've got Vermont, the senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. He's an old man. He's running. He's a socialist. We love him. Here we go. He loves the Northeast. Then, North Carolina, just down south a little bit further. The numbers have come in. We've got Joe Biden, okay? We've got Joe. This is North Carolina here, correct, yes. And then, finally, oh, God, we've got an Alabama call that just came in for Joe Biden. Look at that, folks. Live news. Alabama is here, I believe. And then, finally, the big news of the night.
Great job knowing where Alabama is, Travis.
Thank you so much. I am good at my job. I'm happy that this is where my life has taken me. Finally, American Samoa, something not on the map, goes to my favorite candidate, the man with the plan. He'll get it done, Mike Bloomberg. Back to you, boys.
Hey, John, something interesting I just saw in the exits is early exits of Crooked Media voters show that they find Travis polarizing.
Wow, but that's very unsurprising.
Yeah.
Also not improving on his 2016 margins at all.
All right.
He's just
This question
just
mark
fall down?
stuck on my
Got, whose face is on your foot? All right, so.
He's not on camera anymore, right?
Yeah, let's,
All right.
Thank God. Okay.
We're on camera again? Great.
All right, let's talk about some of the early results here. So you could say based on the polling averages that so far they are expected results in terms of who won these states. But as we look at some of these margins, what are we learning so far, Dan?
They were learning that Joe Biden is outperforming even what anyone thought he would do in his strongest states. Virginia is a state that typically gets called very late because they are very bad at counting votes, particularly in Fairfax County. Called when polls close. North Carolina, called when polls close. Alabama, called when polls close, which means at least across the South, the coalition that delivered his huge victory in South Carolina is showing up for him there. And that has huge delegate implications if he has a South Carolina-like margin in those 3 states.
And I just noticed that even in Vermont, where Bernie has won, there is a chance that Biden might get over the delegate threshold there, it's looking like also, which is very interesting because it's so far, and the vote isn't all in yet, that Bernie is running behind his total, his 2016 totals in Vermont also. Few other things. It looks like Bloomberg is not quite hitting his poll numbers or maybe the delegate threshold.
Tell that to
American
America Samoa. American Samoa, John. He had 7. I learned from the TV 10 seconds ago that he had 7 full-time staffers on the ground in American Samoa. And they paid off.
Yeah, they did.
Not much else did.
I read earlier that Bloomberg had 98 offices in Super Tuesday states. That's like double or not, if not more, anybody else.
So that's not great for him right now.
No.
One other factoid that came out of American Samoa is that Tulsi Gabbard won a delegate out of American Samoa. And
Came in second.
Or
at least so far.
So, which means that the rules of the last Democratic debate were if you won any delegates anywhere, you were invited to the debate stage. So we don't know what the rules of this next debate are going to be.
I think we know now.
Definitely 2 delegates. I just hope that somewhere Tom Perez wrote in an envelope that you need 5 delegates, and he mailed it to himself so that there's proof, like when you try to patent a cool idea, you know? Mail it to yourself, Tom.
Yeah.
And then Elizabeth Warren so far has not met the threshold in Virginia, at least in the early results so far. So unclear if she'll get any delegates out of there. So let's sort of step back in all these states and the results. How did we get here? Because we were talking maybe, I don't know, a week or so ago on the pod about how Bernie Sanders could leave Super Tuesday with an insurmountable delegate lead. And look, we should say California is the biggest prize. We have no vote in from California yet. As you go west and north in the states, there are states that Bernie is supposed to do better.
Right.
I believe that, I don't think we have the main call up there, but I think Bernie won Maine as well, or at least some people were projecting. We're still waiting on the main call. There were some early projections that he might be doing well.
Times is it tilting Sanders.
Tilting Sanders, okay. So have you ever seen something turn this fast?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly did in 2004, right? After John Kerry won in South Carolina, he basically won everywhere afterwards. And so
I guess this is a very 2004 feeling.
Yeah, there is a history of this, and I just think we should just caution ourselves 100% that this is the exact same dynamic happened on Super Tuesday in 2016,
right?
Where the East Coast states with East Coast closing times were much more favorable to Clinton. She cleaned up, the narrative was established, and then as you went west, Bernie did better and better. Now, Clinton still came out ahead on that day and built herself an insurmountable lead, but Bernie's best states are still to come here, and California is worth more than all of the states that we've heard from thus far.
Yeah, although the narrative, like, yes, Super Tuesdays have happened like this before, but coming into yesterday, basically, the big discussion was how many delegates, what will the margin be at Bernie's lead coming out of Super Tuesday? Will it be 100? Will it be 200? Will it be 300? And the best case for Biden by Steve Wacky Tabacchi Kornacki
the
was
real one
seen
or this
as
one?
The real one.
Okay, yeah,
was
you.
less than 100. And then as we walked in here, we all saw a tweet from who was it?
Dave Wasserman.
Dave Wasserman, who
Cook
said
Political Report.
if Biden can keep it tight in California and win Texas, Biden might end up with an insurmountable delegate lead. So I have whiplash.
Which would be wild, because that seems like, so much of this probably depends on what happens in Texas, right?
Texas
and I guess the margin in California and what happens in Texas are sort of the big outstanding questions for tonight from a delegate standpoint.
Right.
Yeah, we're in a very prospective phase. It's early. I would just say this. We've been saying for a long time that, yes, it comes down to what the candidates themselves do, but what we've said for a long time is either
Joe Biden's running the best campaign of anyone by
look,
far.
The man's a champion. But what we've said for a long time is don't sleep on Joe Biden. All right, that guy's the closer. What we've said is
How many times are you going to quote yourself?
the closer.
It's very Barack Obama. What I have said is
Never said.
Look, what I have said.
No, but what we've been saying for a long time. I'm still trying to say
You're
it.
like Marco Rubio.
You keep interrupting me.
I'm Chris Christie.
I didn't put on makeup for this live stream to be treated this way. All right? Just some light powder for shine. All right? You heteronormative judges that...
And you walked in here very smoothly with no tripping. Which I thought was a small victory.
I know what laughs those were out there.
There's a small delay to the folks outside.
that the only chance Joe Biden had was if the race consolidated to one alternative to Bernie. Tonight is interesting. The reason it's interesting is that finally happened. It happened later than we expected. It happened very last minute. I don't think a week ago we would have thought that Amy Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke, and Joe Biden would be sharing a stage and Pete Buttigieg would be doing it in an annex outside because either Amy wouldn't be with Pete or Pete wouldn't be with Amy or nobody wanted to be with Beto. That seems unlikely. But it happened. The consolidation happened. Biden, despite having said he would, as Tommy points out, said he would win Iowa, didn't, had some really rough weeks. Crushed it in South Carolina, put himself in a good position. So tonight turned out to be interesting, and now it's interesting, and we're just going to wait to see what happens.
I do want to talk about that event last night because I think the narrative from a lot of Bernie folks out of that last night was like, okay, the Democratic establishment is now coalescing behind Biden, and this matters a lot. And obviously, I think it just like, it's part of the sort of momentum in the final days, those endorsements. But I do think things started, what turned this around for Biden more than anything was the people of South Carolina voting, right? I mean, he was talking about establishment support for Biden, I think he was sort of left for dead by a lot of the Democratic establishment before South Carolina. There was the New York Times report had a great long story about how we got here yesterday, that like they tried to get Harry Reid support before Nevada, and Harry Reid wouldn't endorse Joe Biden then. There's a lot of Democrats that wouldn't endorse him. He was outspent in South Carolina 40-1. Like, it did seem like it was the votes in South Carolina that started turning this race for him.
The establishment tried on every other candidate, and none of them quite fit. And then it defaulted to Biden.
And then even to get it even more simple is Biden's base is African American voters. They had not been heard from yet in this primary until South Carolina. Yeah. And then he outperformed even the most optimistic expectations within that group. And now those voters are being heard from right here in this sort of first set of poll closings. And the thing that would be worrisome if you're Bernie is this is actually a day where the African-American vote share is diminished as part of the overall delegates because of the addition of California and Texas. And as you go further down the line and more of the South votes, and particularly Georgia and potentially Florida come on board, Biden has some strong delegate states available to him as we go from here. So we don't know what's going to happen to the delegates, but if Bernie is going to be the nominee, either plurality, majority, anything else, the rest of the night has to go much, much better for him because Biden's best days come after this, most likely.
Yeah. Virginia, I think, is 25% African American. North Carolina is 33% African American. These are 2016 numbers. Alabama, I think, is majority African American primary voters. So there are some states, but you're right, not all of them.
One interesting thing, the polls in Massachusetts closed, and they're not making any calls yet, but they say it's looking like a three-way race between Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren. That, to me, is pretty surprising, since it seemed like a contest between Warren and Bernie there, and Biden wasn't. I mean, it brings up a larger point. You mentioned black voters. The group of people that Joe Biden was doing very poorly with in Iowa and New Hampshire was college-educated white voters, and those were the voters sort of split between Amy, Pete, Warren, some other candidates. And if he is now consolidating college-educated white voters, sort of battling Bernie to a draw in some of these exits among non-college-educated white voters, and doing as well as he is with black voters, that's sort of a hard coalition to beat, it seems. Now, I know that Bernie Sanders has incredible strength with Latino voters, and a lot of the states with heavy Latino populations are out west, and so they're not in yet, but,
Well, that'll be the test tonight in California and Texas, because the only piece of data we have for that is a very small number of caucus goers in Nevada.
Right, which has been...
And so there's been a big extrapolation. I think there's reasons to believe that Bernie could do very well there nationally, but it hasn't been tested at scale in a primary yet. And the other thing that's important is, as you point out, the field winnowed, and Elizabeth Warren winnowed Mike Bloomberg, which has massively benefited Biden, because basically after New Hampshire and Iowa, before people met Michael Bloomberg, he was taking 7 to 8 points from Biden's support nationally, and Biden seems to have gotten that back, plus some Klobuchar, Buttigieg, and maybe Warren's support in these other states, which has made him strong.
Yeah. The other interesting thing, just demographically, is we've seen that one of the big divides in this primary is age, and that Bernie has just been crushing it with younger voters. And in the exits for 18 to 29, he's still beating the rest of the candidates by quite a bit. But 30 to 44-year-olds, where he'd been doing well too, at least so far in the exits, we've seen that he is almost running even with Biden among that group too. So again, just thinking about the coalition you need to win the Democratic nomination, if Bernie's crushing it among young voters, you sort of need more demographic groups than that if you're going to be competitive. So.
Yeah, Biden leading exit polls in Alabama roughly 60-20 over Sanders. Wow.
Yeah. Nate Cohn says Biden now favored to win the most delegates tonight, according to our estimates, and we're pretty cautious about letting the results in one place dictate another, given varying early voters and the late surge.
How long till the other Nate QTs him and just dunks as hard as he can?
I want some Nate on Nate violence tonight, or else I'm not going to be happy.
It wouldn't be an election night if the Nates weren't arguing about statistics.
Spreadsheets. We should say, we've had this warning out there all week, but California, it not only comes in late, but if you all remember the 2018 midterms, they didn't know the full results in California for a couple weeks. That's because a lot of the state does vote by mail. You could have postmarked the ballot today and put it in the mailbox today, which means it probably doesn't get counted for another week or so. And we know a lot of people held back their ballots because people were dropping out and they wanted to make their vote count. with a candidate who was still in the race. So, it's going to be pretty hard to determine California. And so, all narratives should sort of be on hold that include California results.
This is probably very annoying for the Bernie people. They knew this was going to happen. The media knew it was going to happen. Good Biden states will come in early, but there are 415 delegates that are sitting in California waiting to come out, which is a huge chunk of tonight.
We're just told the man who absolutely crushed it in American Samoa tonight, Mike Bloomberg, will be speaking in 10 to 15 minutes.
Ooh.
So I wonder what
he'll say.
Is he in American Samoa?
No, he's in
with his people.
He's in West Palm.
Look,
he's in Florida.
As of right now, he has paid about $650 million for 7 delegates. So he just needs to put in about another $30 billion, and that gets him halfway to the nomination. Something to think about.
Someone said he bought the island in its entirety. Is that not true?
There's no evidence that it's not true.
That he didn't. The evidence of absence.
Some early vote came in Texas, in Harris County, with Houston, and it has Joe Biden narrowly winning the early vote in Harris County with Bernie Sanders, which is pretty telling.
Wow. Well, right.
African American, Harris County.
Yeah.
That's my
With the early vote. Yeah. Interesting.
So, okay. So we're going to take a break now, and we'll be back with all kinds of fun coverage all night.
Yeah. Harris County is Houston, by the way.
Houston.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got our own wacky tobacco corner.
I Googled
sometimes. He Googled it.
He's brought his laptop. Smart.
Look at these guys. This is
Look
cool.
at that.
Amazing.
Can we come around and show what's going on over there?
Are we still on? Are we
We're still
live?
on. Yeah, we're
All right,
always
cool.
on. We're still talking.
The other thing that's really cool in Texas, as long as we're just vamping here, Jessica Cisneros
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
running against Henry Cuellar. She's very cool, 26-year-old immigration lawyer advocate, running against the most conservative Democratic member of the House of Representatives. Voted with Trump 69% of the time last year, I think. So
Yeah.
he sucks.
I mean, nice, but still.
Thank you.
She was a
But
guest
not
on Pod
nice.
Save America.
She's a guest
Time
on
to
the
talk to
pod.
her.
She's really cool. So we're all crossing our fingers there. Any other down ballot races you guys are watching?
I guess we got.
We got some big stuff in L.A. We have
Yeah.
a really
Yeah.
big DA race.
Yeah, big DA race. Want to see what happens with Measure R?
Yeah, Measure R, which would help fight prison reform
Corruption in
efforts.
prison, yeah.
We could have a couple of Democratic Senate candidates out of tonight, right?
North Carolina.
North Carolina, Maine,
Yes, Maine.
and Colorado. I mean, they're voting in the primary.
But they're not all linked. So because the
Oh.
Massachusetts Senate primary is not tonight,
Right.
which is fucking stupid.
It really
like just
is.
have
Yeah,
one
why don't
election
they have-
day. Yeah.
Oh, and we have a vote in California too on the Katy Hill district,
Yeah, the 25th.
Oh,
25th.
yeah, the 25th.
and so we have a primary there. So we'll
See what's happening with that.
That'll be cute.
You know?
I voted for Schiff.
I voted for Schiff. I love getting to vote for Adam Schiff.
You were undecided?
Ted Lieu. We like Ted Lieu.
Ted
We like
Lieu.
Ted
But
Lieu,
come on. You get to vote for Adam Schiff. That's a big member of Congress.
I'm moving soon. I think I'm moving back into Adam Schiff's district.
Well, we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you. But
All right,
gay
guys,
news.
we'll be back.
But
I gotta get some more makeup on.
Not tonight. Great. All right. We'll see you.
Can you hear me okay?
There's so many. Which one are we staring at? Great.
Cool.
Should we start with the wide or close? Great. Well, hello. We are live as I ask about that. I'm Akilah Hughes.
I'm Gideon Resnick. Hey.
Yeah, here we are. It is Super Tuesday. We have some updates from this guy.
Yes, thank you, John. I am Travis. I am Steve Kornacki, but I didn't do a cappella in college. We have some updates on the big board already. Okay, we have Bernie Sanders winning Nevada. That happened already. But tonight, we have Vermont to Bernie. We have Virginia to Biden, that's a big one. North Carolina to Biden, that's a big one. We got Alabama to Biden, that's a big one. And then we also have down here, this is a surprise, American Samoa, which is in the Gulf of Mexico, goes to Michael Bloomberg. Back to you, John.
Great.
Wow. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Steve. All right, so Gideon, let's go through it. You want to talk through some of the results as well that we just got that update?
Yes. So, like our friend Mr. Steve over there said, Virginia went pretty big for Biden. That's what we know so far. Vermont, the home state of Senator Sanders, he got. Alabama looks like it was projected for Biden. American Samoa for Michael Bloomberg.
Wild.
Also, yeah. They had 7 people that were like staff there, which was 7 more than I think most of the other campaigns. So good for them for doing that. Tulsi Gabbard also got a delegate in American Samoa as well.
What's going on over there?
Yeah,
the Gulf of Mexico is unpredictable.
Yeah, no one's been polled there. We're very sorry we couldn't poll them ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where we're at. So big picture stuff. What are we watching out for the rest of the night?
I mean, we have a lot more states to come in. The West Coast is not even close yet, So I think that it's mostly that. Yep. But yeah, Gideon, you went out and talked to some people in the streets. What were they saying?
They were voting, which was great. It was basically like a hodgepodge of every possible voter that you could imagine for various different candidates. But basically, I think a lot of the stuff that has been going on so far, Biden is obviously doing really well in the states where they thought that he was going to do well, even better than they thought he was going to do.
That's right.
And the full picture will come in throughout the rest of the night when we get some of those other states.
It's pretty shocking stuff. Also, for you all watching the stream, we are going to be taking your questions, so please send those to us, and excited to answer them. But do we have Adisu on the line yet? Are we ready to speak to him? All right. Well, Gideon, if you'd like to do the intro.
Yeah,
I'll get my headphones.
we're gonna bring in. I'm gonna put my headphones on so I actually can hear people talking to me. We want to bring in Adisu Demesi, Cory Booker's former campaign manager for his 2020 campaign, and he was also California Governor Gavin Newsom's 2016 gubernatorial campaign. Hey, Adisu, are you there?
I'm here, Gideon. Can you hear me?
We don't hear him.
Oh, I'm here.
We got Adisu.
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Wait a second.
Hello.
I'm here.
Okay.
I can hear you guys.
Technical difficulties. We're going to come to Adisu in a couple of seconds. Right. We just can't hear it. If you all hear it on the stream, maybe he's saying hey to you. We're getting that taken care of.
We hope he's saying hi to you.
So
I am.
in the meantime, oh wait.
Oh, hello. There it is.
Out loud.
Oh, hi.
Hello. Okay, it's good to.
I can hear you guys. We
Awesome.
can now hear each other.
Perfect.
Maybe everybody else can hear us.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us.
It is my pleasure.
All
Good to be
right.
here.
Well, just to go ahead and get started, obviously we have to caveat all of this with we don't know all of the results yet. We're still waiting on, some of the other states. But what is standing out to you broadly from the results so far?
I think Biden's margins, we saw, I think, a harbinger of things to come in South Carolina, but I wondered over the last couple of days whether that was about Jim Clyburn specifically, and I think a lot of it was in terms of black voters' support for Biden in South Carolina, but black voters are breathing life into a Biden campaign that 3-4 days ago was left for dead across the South, and he's going to win landslides from Virginia all the way to Alabama. It's pretty impressive. That said, like you said, and I've been saying this for a couple of days, the West is yet to speak. It's where Bernie is strongest, and Warren, I think, and Bloomberg are stronger than they are in the South, and so there's a lot of time left to see what the final picture is. But Biden's strength in the South is greater than I thought it was going to be. It's overwhelming, and it's very, very impressive.
Right.
For sure. Well, what are you really watching out for tonight, though, in terms of, outcomes, in terms of how the turnout was versus 2016 and 2008? Do we feel hopeful that, things are going well? Like in terms of just engagement?
Yeah. I am hopeful about it. I mean, we even saw in South Carolina and in New Hampshire, record turnout in those primaries. I think we're going to see record turnout, at least in raw numbers, across the country. The biggest thing here is the delegates are what matter here. We're talking about winning states, and that's exciting and obviously important on November 3rd when we're talking about the Electoral College. But this is about delegates. And, the number to remember for everybody is 15%. If you don't get 15%, you get zero in terms of delegates. And so the fact that Biden and Sanders, I think, thus far are the only candidates to clear 15% in any state is significant. It's narrowing down to a two-way race in terms of what we've seen thus far. But again, a lot of states left to go. I don't want to, discourage people who are out there, especially here in California where I am. And I think you guys are to not get out there and vote for their candidate. You still got 2.5 hours to do so, but that's the number, 15%. That's the number for folks to remember. It is 15% or nothing across the country when it comes to these primaries today.
For sure. We actually have a question from the audience for you in particular. So Mickey McKenna asks, who does Cory Booker endorse? Do you know?
The answer is nobody
yet.
I think he has to run for re-election in New Jersey this year. So since we got out of the race, I was going to say last month, but it's now back in January. He's been putting together his campaign operation for re-election, and I think not really thinking about weighing in yet on the presidential race. But who knows what's going to happen here in March? And as the field narrows, I think he's watching just like the rest of us. But he does not have a candidate yet that he's out there for, and he doesn't have to vote until June 2nd in the New Jersey primary. So we maybe wait a while.
That's right.
And to the point of being in California as we are, any word to the wise that you want to sort of give on interpreting those results later? Obviously, we're talking about that 15% threshold and the fact that we might not have a ton of clarity on the biggest delegate prize by the end of the day. What would you say to people that are trying to sort of ascertain where things stand later?
Yeah, I think everybody just hold your horses. Extreme caution in interpreting the California results. We'll all be tired, especially those of you on the East Coast at 11 o'clock when our polls close. But this thing is not going to be figured out for days in California. The delegates won't be clear for days, maybe even a week. And especially if a candidate or candidates are flirting with the 15% threshold. You know, when I ran Gavin's race in 2018, I think we moved 3 points in the positive direction in the week after the election. So we're talking pretty significant votes that aren't going to be counted until tomorrow or beyond, just because we have so many damn people in this state, and a lot of people are going to vote, you know, at the polls today, but also returning mail ballots late. So extreme caveat emptor for everybody looking at the California results tonight. I know it's going to be hard, but I promise you we'll do it right in this state, but it's going to take a little bit of time. 10 million people are going to vote, so give us a break.
Very cool. It looks like we're getting a few more stream questions. Well, I'll address the big theme of the stream, which are my pants. They are Diane von Furstenberg, and they are flattering. Thank you so much. We had to stunt. It's Super Tuesday. We're trying to look super.
I'm also wearing Furstenberg for everybody that was asking.
Let's see. Celine Fidinaire asks, are you guys surprised about the outcome in southern states?
I mean, to Adisu's point, I think to an extent we thought that South Carolina was going to foretell the strength for Biden there. I think that I am a little bit surprised by the margins that we've seen so far, particularly in places like Virginia. You know, some of the other states, I think, mirrored a little bit more the electorate in South Carolina that would favor Biden based on what we saw in South Carolina. But it definitely doesn't appear to be a blip in terms of the electorate that, you know, he's been getting so far.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I am from Midwest South, Northern Kentucky, and I'm honestly not surprised. You know, I have a black family, and I think that yeah, I know, shocking, right? And I think that for the longest time, it has seemed as if we were discounting Biden, as if he was, you know, and we're relying on polls from two of the whitest states in the beginning, so it is kind of hard to get a sense. But I wasn't surprised when he said he was going to win South Carolina and then went on to do so. And I think that we really are going to have a very interesting next few months because we got a real race. It's happening.
Yeah.
Amen. Totally agree.
Someone named Zoe is asking Gideon if he's wearing an ascot.
I am not wearing an ascot, but if I find one in the office, I will gladly put one on for the remainder of the stream.
Yeah, when we come back, we will definitely all be in ascots.
Yeah, that's the move for sure.
DC, what are you wearing where you are?
Jeans and a t-shirt
Squad.
on the couch watching TV.
Nice.
Not that exciting.
You know, I mean, I think that's the uniform of Super Tuesday.
We have another question.
Definitely. The uniform of semi-retired campaign managers. For sure.
Yes, you should. I think that's exactly right. We have another question from Jacob Hamblin, if you know him. He said he used to work for you.
I do. He did.
He wants to know about hashtag Grande Tuesday and hashtag Venti Tuesday.
Oh my God, Jake. So what he's referring to is next Tuesday and the Tuesday after that, St. Patrick's Day, the 10th and the 17th. You know, we've obviously had a lot of focus on today. It's the biggest delegate prize on the calendar, but a lot of states are voting in the next 2 weeks, and by the time we get to St. Patrick's Day, we'll be about 2/3 done with the primary. So we're going from about 3% done as of yesterday to about 65% done as of March 17th. So the Grande and Venti Tuesdays are next Tuesday and the Tuesday after that, when I think 6 states vote next week, and then 4 huge states vote: Arizona, Ohio, Illinois, and Florida.
Wow.
On St. Patrick's Day, and it's a ton of delegates, almost 1,000 over 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was excellent. Yeah, everybody, if you're not following Adisu Demisi, follow him online. He's clearly got the updates, got the good intel. And I think we have an update from Steve Kornacki. Is he around? Is he coming? Where'd that boy? Do we have an update?
False flag update.
Wow, he's not even ready. we have a dial tone, but he's gone. All right, we're just going to vamp. Yeah. This was great. This was our good first 15 minutes. Please keep leaving us questions, and we'll get back to you in the bottom of the next hour.
We have a
All right, Steve is here.
Key race alert, though.
Key race alert.
There's sneakers doing.
I don't know. I'm not looking at this.
Okay. Hey everyone. This is really exciting.
Go on now.
Oh, we're waiting on the key race alert to begin, but we're gonna throw to Steve right now.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, all right. We're having a sound issue. We're doing it live, so everybody relax.
We're making it up as we go along.
Yeah, we're like the chiller version of CNN. We're not even going to let this stress us, but we have more questions coming in. Let's see. Zach is asking for our opinion. Do time zones play a factor in Super Tuesday in this primary, or do we think people's votes are pretty much locked in?
Like, I guess if I'm interpreting that right, he's asking if seeing results in other states lead you to vote in differently, and I mean, I think like anything is possible, right? Like we never know when we talk to voters, we never know exactly what is directly impacting them.
Right.
But I don't think that I've heard that as like a top thing for folks.
Yeah, and I think my personal opinion would be that we have
talking to my left.
People have been voting all day. We've been getting reports of long lines, so I imagine that people aren't voting based on results that they have seen. They're just waiting in line and hoping that they get a chance to vote tonight. So that's pretty exciting.
All right, now we promise to give you a key race alert.
I'm not promising. I don't know.
I'm promising.
I'm not
throwing word. We're throwing it to Steve again.
Hi, I am Steve. Special North Carolina Steve Kornacki, and we have some really exciting news. Cal Cunningham just won North Carolina. The Senate primary there. That's really exciting. But the more exciting thing is that he is who's going to go. I don't even know where. He's who's going to go against Tom Tillis. And so for those of you who don't know who Tom Tillis is, Tom Tillis, he's a senator. He beat Kay Hagan in 2014 when I was working for her. We all thought she was going to win, and then he beat us by 50,000 votes. He's an awful person. One of the first things he became well known for in the Senate was saying that the government should not be able to tell employees to wash their hands after they use the bathroom. So that's the kind of person he is. And he just does whatever Trump wants, and then he'll go back on it. What was the thing he flopped on? Oh, the emergency declaration. At first he was against it, and he wrote an op-ed maybe in the New York Times, and then he was for it when it was time to vote because he's afraid of the voters and he doesn't know what's going to happen. And so now Cal Cunningham is going up against him, and you can give Cal Cunningham some money if you go to votesaveamerica.com/getmitch. Thanks, other Steve. I think that's it.
Perfect. Well, we will be back at the bottom of the hour, 6:30. But, stay tuned. More results coming in. More cute boys coming to tell you results. I don't know how to end this. I think I'm just going to get up.
That's basically it. Yeah. We'll see you soon. God bless.
Are we on?
We on?
Oh,
Yeah.
whoa. We've been here the whole time.
Jesus.
Can we get a fucking cue? What is this?
Yeah.
There was
What
a
are we doing here?
There was a cue. It was just quiet.
It was
Never contradict me on the air, Dan.
Okay, we're back. Here's some updates on the hour. We got a Bernie win in Vermont. We already saw that. The margin is 51% Bernie, 24% Biden. So that means Biden is on track to get delegates in Vermont. His team believes that as well. He's got a delegate tracker online that's been saying that.
You mean Delegate Dave?
Delegate Dave from the Biden team. Shout out to him. In Virginia is a Biden win. Virginia, by the way, has almost counted all of their votes. They're like 94% in.
good for you, Virginia.
Yeah, the
Stop making Iowa look like a bunch
anti-Iowa.
of idiots.
And again, it's Biden 53.9% to Bernie 23.1%. Also, a good turnout story in Virginia. Projected turnout is now just over 1 million votes. That would beat the Democratic turnout record in the 2008 primary. Again, we are seeing record-breaking on turnout now in South Carolina, and Virginia, and New Hampshire.
Former Delaware communications director in 2008, Chris Liu, says it's now at 1.138 million with 92% reporting. In 2008 was 986,000.
That's great.
It's a monster.
Chris Liu went on to be the Deputy Secretary of Labor. Just
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Don't take Delaware away from him. He's so defensive
like I don't
about
like
Delaware.
fucking sharing Delaware with Joe Biden, let alone Chris Liu.
Wow.
In North Carolina, we have a Biden win. Obviously, the vote's still coming in there, but we have another. I know you guys heard from Shaniqua. We have another winner there, Cal Cunningham, a veteran and businessman and former state legislator, will be the Democratic nominee for Senate in North Carolina and will face Tom Tillis.
Right.
That is a competitive race. I think there was an NBC Marist poll over the weekend that showed Cunningham up 48-43.
Yeah.
John, quickly, for our listeners, you just heard about a great Democratic candidate running against a Republican in a state we need to win. Pause the stream. Think of all the friends you know in North Carolina. Text them, votesaveamerica.com right now. Get them registered. Get them involved.
And what's more,
Mute the stream.
what's more,
Or just lower the stream a little bit and call them. I would
Yeah.
just let the stream run.
Whatever you
Stay
need to
current
do.
Stay current on the stream. I
Or
don't know
let-
what camera I'm supposed to look at. Where's my... Hey, where do I... Stay on this fucking stream.
unbelievable.
Great job, Tom Steyer.
If you want to go one step further, once you're on votesaveamerica.com, you can go to the Get Mitch or Die Trying Fund and contribute to Cal Cunningham's campaign. Because he's going to need a lot of money to go against Tom Tillis.
Yeah.
We'll need a name for Tom Tillis like we had Dirty Dean Heller, you know.
Yeah, anyone with a TH in Tom, that rubs me the wrong way.
In the
so.
tank, Tom. In the tank for
Yep.
Trump, Tom. And everything is TH.
Do
That
we
looks like
have-
in the thank for thump. The thrump.
I see we have Travis Kornacki here.
Oh,
Are there
no.
any updates you want to provide, Travis?
John, we got a big one coming in from the West Coast, folks.
Those
All right, we
papers are
already
fucking
know-
blank.
Excuse me, what?
Blank paper.
Look, the numbers here are very clear. We had a big night with Michael Bloomberg and American Samoa in the Gulf of Mexico. And right over here, up in Colorado, the man with a plan, Bernie Sanders, has won Colorado. Yes, folks,
That's
we
not
got
Colorado.
it. We
That's
got it. We're back
Wyoming.
in it. We're back in it.
Wyoming.
We got it, ladies
Wyoming.
and gentlemen. I'm Steve Kornacki, but I had a
Wyoming.
friend in high school with gauges.
What?
In his ears, he had gauges, John. Back to you, John.
What? Can you just...
First of
Hey,
all,
Kornacki, that's Wyoming. It's still Wyoming. There you go. There you
The
go.
question was, my producers are fucking morons, John.
So in Colorado's not an open primary, but independents can vote. So says Dave Weigel. What's the difference? Does anyone know?
Well, so like in an open primary, I think you're allowed to sleep with whoever you want, but you have to tell the person. I think is how that works.
okay.
Sanders got 59%
But sometimes
of the
there's
vote.
other rules.
In 2016, Sanders got 59% of the vote in Colorado. Clinton got 40. Obama took 67% in Colorado in 08. Just some old numbers for you.
In a way.
I think
I think
it
it
was
was.
a
There might have been a
caucus.
caucus in 16 as well.
Demographically, Colorado, a very good state for Bernie Sanders because of the independents, because of Latinos.
Yep.
The campaign believes that some of their win will be due to the heavy Latino vote in Colorado. So very big state for
Also
Bernie
another
Sanders.
one with a huge vote by mail because
Yeah.
they're a functioning democracy.
That is correct.
Which means we will not get results for like full delegate allocation there for a while.
Let's talk about Mike Bloomberg for a little bit. So he gave a speech in West Palm Beach where it seemed like he is going on forever. His campaign has been telling people, telling reporters on background that they're going to take a look at the results tomorrow and see if it makes sense to move on.
Not what you say. Not when you say after Hopeful Night. Although West Palm Beach is a good place to go to announce you're probably going to retire.
But look, I think he could. So far, he seems like he has a fairly good vote share in some of these southern states, right?
Yeah, I mean, looks like someone well-sourced in a campaign told me that she or he fears that Bloomberg might win Arkansas.
And he might get delegates out of some of these other. I think right now in Oklahoma he's above the threshold, even though some of it's not all the vote in. And Tennessee he was expected to get some too. What happens then? Like, what if Mike Bloomberg has a bunch of delegates?
Let me tell you what he said, John.
Okay, good.
As the results come in, here is what is clear. No matter how delegates, I guess how many, no matter fucking Dan Merica typo, no matter how many delegates we win tonight, we have done something no one else thought was possible. In just 3 months, we have gone from 1% in the polls to be a contender for the Democratic nomination. Contender in the loosest possible term.
I was going to say, I will admit that I did not think it was possible to light $500 million on fire and only get a couple delegates in American Samoa from it.
Tough.
Unless he could win some of these states, I guess.
He can win some delegates. Yeah, I mean, look, I would not discount its role as a nationwide stimulus package for local news channels, sort of helping pad their bottom lines.
His campaign budget is larger than the budget of the city of Arlington, Texas.
Oh, some fun facts from Dan.
No, I got that from a very unflattering report in the Washington Post about Bloomberg's large money bonfire he's been having.
Oh man,
is this a good time to talk about sort of the value of paid advertising compared? So like, Mike Bloomberg and Tom Steyer both spent an insane amount of money on paid advertising. Meanwhile, and in Bloomberg's case, a field operation, like a real field operation.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Joe Biden was barely on the air in Super Tuesday states. Is not known to have a very good field organization across all these states. And basically is where he is because of, well, there's a lot of factors, but what really helped him in the end was just a lot of traditional earned media coverage over the 3 days between South Carolina and Super Tuesday.
Luck and timing, man. You got to get hot at the right time. It's everything in politics.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but it does seem like maybe 3 days between South Carolina and Super Tuesday was the perfect amount of time for someone to win that state and then have momentum carry you into this semi-national primary.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It was
what if it was 10 days away?
I mean, no, like if we were in this exact spot in 2008 where we had this huge victory over Clinton in South Carolina that was much larger than anyone expected, and there were 10 days, and we were cruising for a while, and then the media narrative shifted, and we ended up doing well on Super Tuesday and netting more delegates. But if the Super Tuesday had happened 3 days after South Carolina, we probably would have won almost all of the states and put the race away on that day.
Yeah.
On the Bloomberg question, though, I mean, let's remember where we were right before that debate in Nevada. He had spent, up to that point, $500 million. He was rising in the polls. There was questions about Joe Biden's performance as a candidate. He had a number of really weak debates. His polls were dropping. He plummeted in Iowa. And this really was a moment where I do think if Bloomberg had come out there and performed well, we'd be talking about how effective Mike Bloomberg was in launching a campaign with advertising. But the advertising set the stage. It started telling a story about the kind of candidate Bloomberg was, which was a story about him being incredibly competent and a story about him winning. And then he went on stage and he was incompetent and he didn't demonstrate to anybody that he had the capacity to win, and no amount of money and advertising could overcome his failures as a candidate. So it's like, people can overstate the value of ads, they can understate the value of ads, but at the end of the day, they only made it possible for him to be a candidate, and it was up to him to do the rest.
Eventually, someone drinks New Coke.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, look, they convinced like 40% of voters in South Carolina that Barack Obama had endorsed him. That's not insignificant.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest mistake of the Bloomberg campaign was taking him out of his tube and allowing him to go to that debate. If they had said, look, we're going to debate, but we don't want to do it out of respect for the other candidates until after Super Tuesday voters have voted, we might be having a very different conversation.
I didn't think about that sort of counterfactual. If Mike Bloomberg was never in the debates, would there would at least be closer between he and Biden right
He
now?
needed Biden to fail. And so as long as Biden had that good debate and a strong performance in South Carolina, there's no reason to pick Bloomberg over Biden. Democrat voters like Biden a lot more. He's much closer to them on the issues. This was always the fundamental flaw in Bloomberg's strategy, was he needed to be in a one-on-one contest with Bernie. And even then, I think it was a much longer shot than people thought, because Michael Bloomberg, not popular with Democratic voters.
Yeah.
And other than being a true hero on guns and climate change, is a moderate Republican on every other issue, and has a long history of pretty Republican statements. But by skipping the first 4 contests, which I understand given when he got in why he skipped Iowa and potentially New Hampshire, but he needed the field to basically collapse other than him, but put himself in no position to use his money to do that.
Yeah.
And so I've never understood what the theory of the case was. And he was never a good candidate to be someone who could win in a contested convention, because he is not a Democrat. Right? And I don't hear people say, well, Bernie's not a Democrat. Bernie Sanders has been serving in the Democratic Congress for 35
Bernie Sanders
years.
is way more of a Democrat
Yes.
than Mike Bloomberg.
Progressive positions.
Yes.
He didn't endorse George Bush in 2004.
Yeah.
Right.
As far as I know.
Well,
That's
Prove you didn't.
Oh, wow. Fake news. Let's talk about Bernie Sanders' sort of challenge moving forward. And I mean this as Bernie Sanders could end tonight, or in a couple weeks from now, we find out California slightly behind in delegates, ahead in delegates, almost tied in delegates. But it seems like the race, for all intents and purposes, is this 2-man race going forward between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, barring some other surprises from Elizabeth Warren or Mike Bloomberg tonight. Two things have stuck out at me tonight from some of these exit polls and some of these results so far. One, that youth turnout is not quite keeping up with where it has been in the past. It's a little sluggish. And also, in the exits, it looks like first-time voters, Joe Biden is narrowly ahead with first-time voters. I mean, what does that say about what Bernie Sanders has to do?
I mean, just to update our turnout conversation in Virginia, I'm now seeing that Virginia turnout is over 1.3 million people.
Yeah.
And that is 300,000 plus over the 2008 number. Now, if there was a massive turnout surge in a state that was overwhelmingly won by Joe Biden, that speaks to a pretty strong electability argument for Joe Biden and not for Bernie Sanders, who has promised this youth turnout surge. Now, better states for him could come in later, but that's a tough data point to spin your narrative.
Look, Bernie Sanders' biggest mistake was when the secret bat signal from the Democratic establishment went out to all the voters around the country. He didn't intercept it.
I mean, again, I'm seeing a lot of that tonight, too,
Yeah.
that it was all these voters around the country are taking their cues from the Democratic establishment, and I guess the Democratic establishment in this case is Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke, and Harry Reid. That's it. And
If
and
Amy
I guess
Klobuchar
and I guess James Clyburn
could
which
convince people who to vote for,
It would have been
she'd be president instead of endorsing Joe Biden 15 minutes after Pete Buttigieg due to that restraining order.
It ultimately, all of what this comes down to, and there are a lot of votes to be counted, and there's a lot of contests to come, but Bernie Sanders has failed as of today, as of right now, to garner enough votes in the African-American community to win enough delegates to be the Democratic nominee. And it's not like this is the factoid that the people who are blaming Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, and Harry Reid for this is the results in North Carolina and Alabama and Virginia look exactly like the results in South Carolina that happened before those things, which is Joe Biden's strength is African-American voters. They were not heard from at all in this race until Saturday, and now they're being heard from. And if someone else wants to be a Democratic nominee, they're going to have to change that dynamic.
And again, and Joe Biden's weakness, which has changed tonight, was with college-educated white voters. And for that, you could say it's part of it is sort of the party seeming to coalesce around Joe Biden, but part of it is these have been the most fickle voters throughout the entire process. These are the voters who thought, at one point, maybe Mike Bloomberg's interesting for a couple days before they saw him on the debate stage. First they were with Elizabeth Warren, then Pete Buttigieg, then Amy Klobuchar. And so he did do some consolidation around there, but with black voters, it seems like it's, South Carolina was like you said, all the states are acting like South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, I do think part of this was the order of the states and how well Bernie performed. We had a lot of conversations about Bernie Sanders' strengths and a lot of conversations about Joe Biden's weaknesses.
Yeah.
And now we're going to have a conversation about Joe Biden's strengths and Bernie Sanders' weaknesses. And what we've been saying for a while, too, is that, if the anti-Bernie vote didn't consolidate, Bernie Sanders would be the nominee. But the other point we've been striking for a while is that Bernie needs to prove he can broaden out this coalition to the kind of people who are not naturally supportive of him beyond the incredibly passionate and devoted base of young people, of Latinos that he's been able to turn out, that have built his movement and funded his campaign and organized and knocked on doors all across the country. And I think whatever happens tonight, regardless of who comes out ahead in delegates, that is going to be the challenge the Bernie Sanders team is talking about, that everybody is talking about, and that becomes the story he's trying to tell leaving tonight.
And before we go, we actually have 2 calls, I believe.
Travis. Thanks, John. We got some big ones. The people have listened to Beto out there in Oklahoma. That's going to Biden. Obviously, that's the Beto-mentum. And then over here, another one for Beto-mentum in Tennessee. Thanks to Amy Klobuchar and Beto and nothing else, Joe Biden has won Tennessee. Again, I'm Steve Kornacki, but I had pegs on my bicycle.
Looks like
you, John.
Looks like Bloomberg's got 19% in Tennessee right now, so he'll get some delegates.
Wow. How much is in Tennessee right now?
49 on the New York Times site.
No.
Okay, then.
Which means everyone else has 85%.
Yeah, this is also confusing.
Steve Kornacki just leaves unceremoniously. He just walks out.
Well, that's so. I think that's all for our update now. Unless anyone has any other thoughts before we take a little break.
Gay news. Really enjoying this show. Everything's gonna be okay on Hulu. Not to be confused with a show that's something like Things Are Not Gonna Be Okay, which is on Netflix.
I just want to update some fake news I relayed. The New York Times is saying Arkansas very likely Biden now. So
okay,
Bloomberg looking like a strong third.
Strong third.
Yeah. 18.9%. I mean, that's not bad, but yeah.
How much is in?
Like 5.
Okay. Arkansas was a state that Bloomberg has been winning. One of the states he was winning in pre-South Carolina.
Yeah,
polls.
he was the only guy competing there. Warren had people organizing on the ground, but I think he was running like big time ads.
All right.
I came, Arkansas, I didn't conquer. I saw Arkansas.
Cut the cameras.
I saw Arkansas. Like and subscribe to the feed. Go to commercial.
Welcome back. We are still here.
Yes.
It's still Tuesday.
We haven't been fired.
That's right. It's weird because I definitely just got up at the end. I didn't sign off really. It's live.
That's just how things are going to go here tonight, folks.
That's right.
But in case you didn't know or you weren't watching in the first hour or you're not WOD listeners yet, which frankly, how dare you.
Subscribe to What a Day. What are you doing?
Yeah. We are What a Day here.
I'm Akilah Hughes.
And I'm Gideon Resnick. And
we're going to help you with these results.
We're going to help you with the results. So the latest stuff this hour that we didn't know the last hour. Colorado has been called. Senator Bernie Sanders won that one. We are still waiting on a lot of other states at the moment. There's some close stuff that I'm looking at here. Arkansas hasn't been called. Maine, Massachusetts, Oklahoma, I believe, also went for Joe Biden.
Wow.
So that's sort of the latest lay of the land. But we have a couple of questions we want to kind of go through. Really
let's see what's going on. So the first question we've been receiving a ton of: how is turnout? It's up.
It is up, folks.
Wild.
Turnout is a booming. I think one of the crazy stats that we saw in Virginia specifically, where we have like a more complete picture of total results, is there's record turnout there. I think it was like doubling 2016 potentially.
Wild.
So that is really, really awesome overall. Another question that we have: how is Bloomberg doing tonight?
I mean, American Samoa has spoken, and they like Bloomberg. They like that money. They like that lip service and team on the ground. So, I mean, I guess a little bit of a surprise. Who knew?
You know, if you're in American Samoa, then Bloomberg is doing phenomenally. If you are not in American Samoa, then, you know, it could have been a better night, particularly because in a lot of these states, Bloomberg has put in an unbelievable amount of money.
Yeah.
Just to go back to Virginia again, because that's one of the places where, you know, we have a complete picture of the numbers. With 100% reporting, Bloomberg is at 9% in Virginia, in fourth place. And that's a place where, you know, he was like outspending Biden in like crazy amounts. So, you know, to come in 9%, again, we're seeing another example like we did in South Carolina, where Steyer put a lot of money into the state that money is not translating into votes for these folks just yet.
That's right. We also have a question about Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren tonight, how she's doing. So according to the New York Times, Warren is near viability in Texas and Colorado. So like we said on the show yesterday, but if you don't listen yet, that's on you.
That's on you, honestly.
Basically, we need this 15% threshold if you're going to be, you know, viable going forward. It looks like she may hit it. Does that mean that she will be a really big contender? It just depends on where all the delegates shake out, I think. But
yeah,
feel free to...
in her home state, though, she's in a bit of trouble. She's behind Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders right now. We don't have a complete picture there, but basically throughout all of the states that we have in so far, it's either Sanders or Biden at 1 or 2, and then Bloomberg, Warren, give or take, at 3, 4. That's kind of how the night is shaping up, but we have to keep caveating it, folks. We got a lot more to go.
Yeah, it's early. This is only our second time on the stream. You're going to see us at least twice more.
You're going to see us in your freaking dreams.
Yeah. Also, just to go back to Bloomberg for a second. So on NBC News, Bloomberg, they have Bloomberg is going to reassess his campaign tomorrow. Does he throw his money behind other candidates? Some candidates don't want the money. What's your vibe, Gideon?
So the Bloomberg campaign, I guess also before this NBC report, put out a statement that was pretty bizarre, if I'm being totally honest. They said that, Bloomberg went from a candidate that had 1% of the vote to being somebody that was vying for the Democratic nomination, which, like, if we jumped into the race tomorrow, we might. We would be vying for the Democratic nomination. I don't know what that actually means.
Yeah.
So
it's just kind of like a description of what we're watching on television.
It sounds like they're leaving the door open for him to leave the race. I wouldn't speculate, but all I would say is, like, if you are spending this insane amount of money on all of these states and you're not coming out on top in them, it's a hard argument to make to people that you're still going to be in there. And like we saw with a lot of these other candidates that were kind of crowding this moderate lane,
right,
like, folks are going to be on the phone and saying, look, Biden is the one who is winning those voters, and it's, about time that you got the message. But we'll see.
Let's see. I saw a question in the YouTube chat. People are asking if Biden wins Texas, does he become the favorite? Is he suddenly no longer the underdog?
For tonight, for tonight he certainly would be. And I think at this point, and I want to do the math and consult our Kornacki friends that are here and the real Kornacki as well. I think that that would put him in a really good position. The last two states that everybody is waiting on are Texas and California. Those are like the biggest delegate hauls of the night. So if he's coming close there and winning with the margins that he's winning in other places, that's putting him in a really good position. So he would certainly be the favorite of the night for sure.
For sure. Let's see, more questions. How do we feel about the What a Day mugs? I think they're great. I love a prop that is also has use.
Right.
I also I think that we should get more merch.
We should.
I'm going to put that pressure out there publicly so that people know we do want more merch. We hear you.
Yeah.
A shirt, maybe a hat that says headlines.
We've been fielding calls on a lot of this stuff, and we're listening to the American public.
The streets is talking.
Yeah.
They want more What a Day. Also, I'm not seeing this in the YouTube, but some people are saying wad heads. I want to just set the record straight. It's Wad Squad.
I want to set the record straight just one more time, really, really quickly. It is wad heads.
It's for sure squad.
It's definitely.
We are the squad.
It's certainly heads. We appreciate the input, but it's heads.
Yes. Oh, all right. Let's see. More people. These are not pajama pants. These are fully functional adult pants. I may be drinking later, so it will be a homey vibe, but these are absolutely like nice pants.
They're nice pants, that's for
For
sure.
work.
I don't think pajama pants necessarily connotes not nice pants, but that's just me.
Well, that's that Midwestern boy talking.
It is.
Let's see. Do we have? We also need to put out the call. Please send us more questions because that is how we're spending our time is answering your questions. So if you don't send them,
we got nothing to say besides just telling you we're looking at state maps just like you guys are.
Let's see. What do we got? Somebody wants us to try to do the headlines jingle live.
Oh, okay.
So full disclosure. A lot of people think it's just me singing it.
Yeah.
I am doing like 2 harmony parts, but Gideon is also harmonizing.
That's correct.
A lot of people just don't hear him because he's like doing a nice low. But I will also say we didn't get it in one take.
Right.
So
I don't
know if I need this to last forever on the internet, but
yeah, we'll think about this maybe as a treat for
by the end of the night,
the final segment.
We might practice in between.
I might need like a tea and honey to sort of loosen me up here.
A harmonica to set the note. We're not ready yet. But thank you for the question. We hear you. We accept that.
Okay, I got a couple others that are highlighted here. The first is, what are some good VP candidates? I think that's kind of a subjective question.
It also depends, there's still a lot of people in the race. We gotta maintain that, like, we can't really say. And I think that it might entice some people to leave the race if they are offered certain positions. So we just don't know yet.
Right.
But
you're saying that Michael Bloomberg should be
the
VP too.
Yeah.
Any of
Quote
the other.
me. I think Michael Bloomberg should be anywhere near an office building.
You heard it. I didn't say it. You heard it.
Whatever. He's coming for me.
I think on the point of VP candidates, I think a lot of people, are. It's fun and fine to speculate, but there is like a long way to go in terms of how people are going to actually decide or who ends up being at the top of the ticket. Just we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for people who have long been out of the race, I think Julian Castro is a G, and I think he invites in like a large voter demographic. But yeah, okay. I won't continue to pontificate. We'll say we don't know for sure, but I think the good thing about Dems, they're not at a loss for superstars. So I think there could be some good people. Why is Tulsi Gabbard? That's a question.
Oh, okay.
That has no answer.
Yeah, that doesn't have. I'll defer. I have one here in our doc from, full disclosure, an upset Warren supporter. Sorry, but you wrote it. If Biden wins the nomination, how do you think he will build his coalition to include the left? That is a really interesting question because I think we saw this to some degree in 2016 where Sanders was involved in the platform process, involved in putting together, some of the kind of boilerplate issues that the Democratic Party would stand for when Clinton secured the nomination. So my guess now, and again, like we said with the VP stuff, like we're far off from any conclusive stuff even for tonight, is there would be something similar, right? Like a lot of these candidates are wanting to and willing, if they get to that point, to have those sorts of conversations and say, where can we kind of conceive of a platform here that mirrors what the American people want.
Yeah, and I think that unity is sort of the message. It's been stressful online. I'm sure a lot of people have been feeling that. And so I think obviously anyone who would secure the nomination would have to do a lot of work to unify the party. But I think that that is, the beginning and end of it, right? If you don't unify the party, you don't have a chance. And so even with Bernie, I think that there is going to be a concerted effort to bring in more moderate people who have overlooked his campaign, who've said it's too radical or impossible. I think that there are going to have to be those kind of hard conversations, and we just have to be respectful. And, remember, the big boss is Donald Trump, and he got to go.
He does look like Bowser a little bit.
Yeah, he's Bowser in the castle complaining. I don't know who that would, I guess Melania's Princess Peach, I don't know. The metaphor has run out.
So we have some more in here. How are states like Colorado being called with less than 1% of votes in on the Times page? That is a good cue. So for a lot of these states, they are doing calls that are sort of projected by exit polling. That's like one of the easiest ways that people are doing it, especially if the margins are big enough, right? So earlier on this evening, on my way here, in fact, there was a call for Biden in Virginia, and it showed 0% on the Times page. And it just so happened to be that there was enough information that they could say, he's going to win by a wide margin, and he certainly did. So yeah, that tends to happen in terms of the calling, and then the votes sort of get filled in as we go. And yeah, there's a lot of states here that are far from complete in terms of the count.
That's right. People are asking what's going to happen with that White House diorama after they finish it. I mean, first of all, give it up.
Yeah.
This was not easy. I watched them put it together, and now they're also painting it. I would move in. I think that it's beautiful.
I am moving in.
It's a White House for ants. I think it's great. I hope that they gift it. Probably not to me. I don't have the space, but
don't worry,
I hope it's at least still here, right? There's use for it. The White House isn't going anywhere, right? Oh my God, they're going to fill it with candy like a piñata, and we're just going to beat it forever. I mean, it's really large.
I couldn't commit to destroying something so beautiful that took so much time. It would make me sad.
All right. Also, we got a call too. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Now's the time. We've got a ton of people watching us. Tell us how cute we are, but also subscribe. It's a click. It's free.
Yeah, to the pod and to the videos.
Yeah, yeah, both. Come on.
Stop being such a
The pod comes out 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And you know what? We gave a lot of heads up on tonight. We're going to cover it again tomorrow. So if you like our vibe on the stream, I think
you're going to like our vibe on the freaking pod. That's the vibe check.
Thank you so much. Wow. Just tell them it's a shirt, Gideon. They think it's an ascot.
It's not an ascot. Do you want to? How will
Take
this
your
help
shirt
you?
off. You can't.
I see what people are being
it was pretty.
sickos about.
Yeah.
Do we have other questions here that we can go through right now?
You can glance. I'm looking through the YouTube. We're getting a ton of stuff. Oh, what is my pin? I don't know if we can get a zoom, but it's a lapel pin for the Goofy movie.
Best Disney musical of all time.
Yeah, I would say the first Black Disney film starring Powerline as a hero.
As a singing
Yeah,
mouse
you can't even see it.
hero.
I'm sorry that it's so far away. As I pass it on the way out, I will try to get it in focus so you all can see. Disney is not sponsoring the stream. I thought it looked patriotic from a distance.
It kind of does, yeah. From very far away, it's like evil,
Michael Martinez
evil.
says, "Stand out above the crowd, even if you've got to shout out loud."
Tonight is the only place you'll see.
That's
a song about Super Tuesday.
It is. Honestly, I'll vote for whoever makes that their campaign song.
The power line.
Maybe eye to eye.
Performances, vibes are incredible. Outfits are incredible.
Yes. Ooh, somebody said shout out to a fellow Kentuckian. I see you. We don't vote today, but yeah. Also, a lot of people are asking me why I don't have a voting sticker. I'm not voting in California. I'm voting Mitch McConnell's ass out of office.
There you go.
I need to be there that historic day when his old ass is gone. So it's important.
Okay, I think we also have some people asking what is going to happen to the delegates of candidates that dropped out. This is something that we talked about on the show previously.
That's right.
It's basically, so all the delegates will go to the convention this summer, and they're encouraged to vote for whoever Pete or Amy would want, but not required. So it's basically up in the air, but you kind of assume that that's what is going to happen, right? So in this case, if we were to assume that, then the delegates that are for Buttigieg and Klobuchar would be going to the Biden corner because those candidates endorsed Biden. It's not a ton of delegates, so it might not end up being the deciding factor. We'll kind of see.
It just depends, yeah.
But yeah, that's basically like the long and short of it. So, and that's the rule for any of the candidates if they decided to exit the race. Excuse me, I ate pizza and now I'm vomiting.
Yeah, well, yummy. What a wonderful stream. All right, well, guess what, squad? That's our time for right now. We're going to take a break. We'll see you in the next hour. Please keep sending in your questions because John, Tommy, and Dan are here to answer them at the top of the hour.
But their answers won't be as good as ours. Just remember that.
That's right. And now I'm going to walk towards the camera, and Nar is going to find the accurate focal length to see this Goofy movie thing. I'm also just going to get up. That's how I end my segment.
Goodbye.
Okay. All right, we're getting it in.
Oh,
Wait. Further back. More light.
Perfect. Let it focus. Perfect.
Yay. Thank you. Powerline is squad.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. I'm here with Sarah Lazarus, the author of the What a Day newsletter.
Author is a strong word.
These days. And we're here to talk to you about the Vote Save America, Leave It All on the Field Fund. That's why we're in matching merch. Sarah Lazarus is the chillest person at Crooked Media. I am the least chill. Together we're room temperature.
We even out. We came in here without a bit and decided we would find a bit in the room, which, as any performer can tell you, is risky.
Improv. Yes, and.
I got to 201 at UCB and then I quit.
201. That is intermediate.
Almost. Leave it on the field is important because there's an election after this election, which is the general election.
The general election. That's the one that covers everything.
It's the big one.
It's the big one. And the Leave It All on the Field Fund is going to help put 1,000 organizers on the ground in key states to knock on doors, get people registered, do the work we have to do to make sure that when the Democratic Party has a nominee, and we're almost certainly going to have one.
Probably. It seems like we're on the way.
We're going to probably at the end of this have a nominee. And once we do, we want to make sure that that nominee has the resources they need to compete, because the Koch brothers and the Republicans have people on the ground all across America. In 2018, they turned out the vote just as hard as we did. And yeah, we won. It was a big night, all right? But we got to be, what's the word?
Ready?
The word's ready. So if you go to votesaveamerica.com/field. What was that, Sarah?
Oh, that's votesaveamerica.com/field.
Votesaveamerica.com/field. Oh, wait, that's my camera. Come on, Nar. I get no help. We're alone out here. I feel like
hanging us out to dry. I should have worn 2 hats.
We needed more hats. We're like Jane Lynch in late season 3 Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Gay news. If you go to
votesaveamerica.com/field.
Votesaveamerica.com/field. You're saying that a bit like Grey Gardens.
Oh, interesting. I do identify with them strongly.
Yeah. That is, I am there. You know, the G. Some people think the G in LGBTQ is for gay, but it's actually for Grey Gardens. It's Grey Gardens. I can't do it. You can do it.
Grey Gardens.
Grey Gardens.
Grey Gardens.
Grey Gardens.
Grey Gardens.
Votesaveamerica.com/field. We're going to put 1,000 organizers on the ground. We're at 350,000 right now. I think 347. You cheapskates. We're at 347,000 right now. I would like to try to get us to 400,000 by the end of the night. Our goal is to get to 500,000. That funds the full 1,000 folks. You know?
They're expensive. They got to eat. You got to give them phones to call people with.
Here's the thing about organizers is they like to eat 3 fucking times a day. And it can't just be the same thing. They're not like dogs. They're people.
They get upset.
That's the thing about these organizers.
They start leaving. They just walk away.
They're finicky. Grey Gardens.
Grey Gardens.
Grey Gardens. It's a sports metaphor. Leave it all on the field.
You can't just feed them cat food like she feeds the raccoons.
Yeah.
In Grey Gardens.
Because organizers aren't raccoons. They're people. They're human beings.
Until we figure out how to get raccoons to phone bank, which is our next project.
Yeah. That's a long-term thing. After we figure out apps.
That's kind of more just my personal thing.
That's her personal thing. She's training raccoons. Grey Gardens.
Grey Gardens.
VoteSaveAmerica.com. VoteSaveAmerica.com/field. Cut transmission. Go to the dogs. See, we found
that was flawless. Yeah.
Very great. Perfect.
Okay. We're back.
We're back.
Here at the top of the hour, and I believe Travis has some calls.
That's right, John. Look, it's been a long time since we had another call, but we got some big ones coming up, okay?
Travis, are you an extra in The Outsiders?
Haven't seen it. I'm very young, Tommy. Here we go. Do
you know Pony Boy?
Minnesota used to be a caucus. Now it's a primary going to Big Teeth Joe Biden. And then down here, I'm just kidding. He's our nominee now. We love him. Down here, Arkansas, Little Rock, a great place that I've never been to. Also, to Good Smile, No Insults, Joe Biden. I'm having a lot of fun. This bit's going to go on forever.
Travis,
yes.
just a quick question. What was it like shooting one day on Brokeback Mountain?
I was recast when they saw how
Nope. This is live. Thanks, Travis, everybody.
Cool. Goodbye.
More updates. Wait, no.
Do you have any more news?
I think that's it.
That's it. We did
Make up some shit.
Arkansas. We got Minnesota. It looks like in Maine, we still kids can't get vaccines or something. Something about vaccines in Maine. I'll find out what it is, but I think they are bad. No one should get vaccines.
No.
Okay.
No. Get him out. Get him out.
All right, see, that's
Get
it.
him
We
out.
asked for it. We asked for it.
Travis, go on Chapo.
Let's
Don't clean up the paper.
yeah.
Just leave.
We just want you
Just
out.
get out. You did great. It was very funny.
Of all those calls, let's start with Minnesota because I think that's the biggest. It might be the biggest surprise of the night. Amy Klobuchar was obviously leading the state for a long time, but also in 2016, Bernie beat Hillary in Minnesota 61-38.
Caucus to primary.
Caucus
switch.
to primary.
Yeah.
Those caucuses.
Man.
They'll get you.
And so big win for Biden there. Obviously, I think I was one person when Klobuchar dropped out thinking, okay, Bernie's going to win Minnesota. So if she wants to back Biden, why would she drop out of the race and let Bernie win and get more delegates? But clearly, I don't know, maybe they had some numbers, either the Klobuchar people or the Biden people or both, that her dropping out could actually help Biden win it.
The Klobuchar people leaked their internal numbers, right, to some journalist that showed her winning at like 30-some-odd%.
Yeah.
But who knows? But that's 75 delegates. That's a lot.
We also don't know when that poll was from either.
Right. I mean, look.
Last year.
I wonder if they. I wonder how much they were paying for polling in Minnesota towards the end of the race.
Good question, John.
A lot of money just going for, thumbtacks to throw out in front of Pete's motorcade. Most of that was most of the budget. But I wonder how much of it was wondering how she could help Biden or maybe seeing some
Speaking
signs.
of wondering, you did an outfit change. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, thanks a lot for asking. Gay news. As the night goes on, I'm going to be putting on more and more merch as part of an abandoned bit, now that I think about it. So I don't have to.
Okay. Cool.
I am very hot now. So that's something.
One piece of info from the exit polls, speaking of Minnesota. So late deciders, people have decided in the last few days. Minnesota, Biden 55, Sanders 21. Texas, Biden 49, Sanders 21. Maine, Biden 42, Sanders 19. This was a late surge here.
Well, it started immediately after the establishment sent their letters to all voters.
Yeah, they snuck them in AOL CDs.
Texas, of course, is too close to call. That's the big prize. Bernie Sanders could still win Texas. I think they said too close to call. It was too early to call.
Yeah.
Now same day is coming in and they're saying too close to call.
In just a let's clown ourselves moment on NBC or MSNBC, they switched from too early to call to too close to call, which I realize is a material difference. But for fuck's sake, you don't have to do like the noise and the music and shit.
I'm gonna change it. Too sexy to call.
Hey, we got a question.
Sure.
On Twitter from Jillian Ashley, who said, "Can you please go into how states are called when so little of the precincts are reporting? Also, the dog content on the stream is the only thing helping tonight's anxiety. So thank you, dogs."
Thank you, dogs.
That was more of a comment at the end.
Yeah. Who wants to actually? Dan, you want to take a shot at that?
Sure. It is a combination of entrance polls where the media outlets group together and they have people waiting outside of polling places. And then they are also looking at data from very specific bellwether precincts to measure, which goes into their model for how you win. And it is an imprecise thing, but they are they're pretty cautious about it. So
Very cautious.
So when they call it early, it is because they have overwhelming evidence that one candidate is dramatically outperforming their model.
And usually at the end of that race, when all the results are in, they will not make a call as soon as the polls close if even if it's like a 5 or 10 point win, they're usually not making that call. They did it in South Carolina, and when they called it as soon as the polls closed in South Carolina, a lot of people were like, "What the hell? You don't have any vote in." Well, it turns out, Biden wins by 28 points, and they feel pretty confident about that.
There's the history here is that the networks famously called Florida for Al Gore in 2000, getting it wrong, making George W. Bush president, and ever since then, they've been incredibly careful. In Florida in 2012, they didn't call the election until a week afterwards, just to be sure they didn't get it wrong.
Yeah. Another interesting state here, Colorado. Bernie won Colorado, but as we've been saying, this is a race for delegates. Winning states and winning popular votes doesn't matter as much. It's all about how many delegates you accumulate, and of course, you get delegates if you qualify for delegates if you get over 15%. So Bernie wins Colorado, and he'll probably win by a good margin. It's a good state for him. But right now, at least, all 4 candidates, Bernie, Biden, Warren, and Bloomberg, are over 50% in Colorado. And so that may actually limit the amount of delegates that Bernie gets out of Colorado. Yeah. And I just sort of wonder in how many states Bernie Sanders' campaign was sort of calculating that they would be able to get quite a few delegates out of the state because some candidates wouldn't reach 15%.
Yeah, they wanted to win big.
I'd be very curious to see in Colorado because the overwhelming amount of what is in is vote by mail. Because Colorado, unlike some places, counts the vote by mail that comes in before Election Day, and they dump that into the system. And Bloomberg, and everywhere else we've seen, has done well where there's early vote and then dropped off dramatically for people who voted today. And so when that other third of the vote in Colorado comes in, I'd be curious to know whether he and Warren are still above threshold at that point.
Yeah, there just some 101 on this. Most states allocate some portion of the delegates by the statewide margin, and the rest either by congressional district or in Texas, it is state Senate districts. So when you total it all up, I think about 2/3 of the votes come in via the district by district process. So you often see the media freaking out about the margin statewide, but that's only 1/3 of the story.
Got it. We have another call.
Whoa.
Travis? Do I just yell Travis into the microphone and something happens?
I mean, this is unbelievable.
Possible he doesn't work here anymore.
Do you think he's just rolling his sleeves up a little more? Travis, I believe we have a call.
I forgot my clipboard, John.
You already called it. Oh, fuck. It was already in the thing. It was Oklahoma.
Recreate it.
Okay, guys, we got a big one. All right?
Unbelievable.
Right here, Oklahoma, famous for the musical Hello, Dolly. Right here goes to Joe Biden. We all love him now. We're rallying behind him. John.
Oh, my God.
Thanks, Travis. Bernie's actually speaking right now. He said, I tell you with absolute confidence we are going to win the Democratic nomination.
Wow.
That's the kind of confidence you want to have.
Can we stream the Bernie speech and kind of chat about it and listen? Technically, are we able to?
Couple minutes.
We're going to give it a couple minutes. Elijah says, call me later. I'll get back to you.
What are some of the what do we think are some of the good Bernie states coming up beyond Super Tuesday where he could do well if it ends up being closer than his campaign imagined in terms of delegates?
Well, big states on the calendar still are Florida, Illinois, New York, and Pennsylvania. Which of those do we think?
Georgia's the other one.
Well, that's probably not a good Bernie one. Probably a good Biden one. Any of those strike you as particularly Bernie?
No. New York possibly, but
right, it could be tight there. He's probably hoping to do well in Michigan. So on next Tuesday, isn't it Michigan, Missouri,
North Dakota, Washington,
and Idaho?
And
so with those, you think that Biden's probably naturally a good fit for Missouri and maybe
and Mississippi's the other one.
And Mississippi.
It's a huge one.
That's right. So those are the two that Biden will do well there. Sanders obviously had the big surprise in Michigan in 2016, beat Hillary there. So I'm sure, and it's a general election swing state. So I'm betting that they'd probably put a lot of hopes on that state.
Yeah. I mean, Bernie's been has been on the air in Michigan for a while now.
Yeah.
And also Bernie, I think so. I saw today. I think Joe Biden has raised how much in 3 days? Like
15 million.
15 million in the first 3 days of March. Bernie had rolled out a $45 million February. I mean, I imagine for both of them, the money keeps rolling in tonight.
I think Bernie Sanders is going to see money from a lot of people that maybe in the past few weeks have felt more and more confident in their candidate, and now I think
Dig deep.
Tomorrow is going to look like a day where I said this that this primary this primary has felt like Settlers of Catan, and that when you're winning, you feel like you're losing, and when you're losing, you feel like you're losing. And I think tomorrow is going to be a day where everybody is going to be afraid they're about to lose.
I can't relate to that at all.
No, not a clue what that is.
What news is that?
It's just
nerd news.
Nerd news.
Gamer news.
Here's the thing.
Can you put it in NHLPA 94 terms?
Oh my God! How about
Madden?
Tecmo Bowl news?
Mario Kart news.
Mario Kart news. This primary has been a lot like Mario Kart, in which there is a kind of nerfing that happens to the front runner because they get all the attention.
Biden got a red shell.
Yeah, Biden got a fucking. Oh my God!
Do you think Tulsi Gabbard is the blue shell?
Tulsi Gabbard is a banana on the fucking.
Wherever you
she's
are.
a banana. Tulsi Gabbard is a banana right in the home stretch.
Here's some nice news out of Maine.
What, John?
Democrats just flipped a state house seat in Maine by 15 points tonight that Trump carried by 8 points.
Oh, that's
Take
great
that,
news.
Susan Collins.
Yeah, let's. Hey,
Susan Collins, by the way, who was asked
she's gonna be scared
multiple times whether she voted for Donald Trump in the Republican primary in Maine, and has refused to say whether she voted for Donald Trump.
Speaking of Susan Collins,
which goes to tell you how her impeachment vote is probably going over back in Maine. Remember impeachment?
VoteSaveAmerica.com/GetMitch, and you can donate to replace Susan Collins with a better person. Just a better person. That's the goal here. A lot of this tonight is about picking people to be the people that we replace some bad people with better people.
Sanders said tonight, we're not only taking on the corporate establishment, we're taking on the political establishment. You cannot beat Trump with the same old kind of politics. I do think it's a step up from the Democrat calling out the Democratic establishment. Can we talk about that a little bit? I do think that we talked about earlier Bernie's challenges going forward. I think, a little less I'm against the Democratic establishment, a little more welcome Democratic voters, come to my movement over Joe Biden's movement.
I'll be a little more blunt about it. I think it's very challenging when people who support you and some inside your campaign spend weeks calling Mayor Pete a rat or Elizabeth Warren a snake.
Yep.
Or pick I see people that support Bernie online tonight who are repeatedly asserting that Joe Biden is in mental decline and has cognitive issues. When you say the shittiest things possible about your rivals, they're not substantive in any way. They're just mean, nasty things, and then expect their voters to come to you when you need them. That's a very foolish way to build a coalition.
And again, this is just
childish, and it's stupid, and they should fucking stop it.
And just some advice and some strategy on this, right? Like, I get that most people aren't on Twitter, but reporters are on Twitter, and media narratives obviously have an incredibly powerful effect on this race.
Came up at a debate.
Joe Biden is the beneficiary of a media narrative over the last couple of days. Is why he's doing so well, because he didn't pay for the media, certainly. So, when that's that important, look, and I don't think Bernie Sanders is responsible for every fucking Yahoo online who's supporting him that talks about him, but there's a tone that you set from the campaign that I think some people in his campaign set very well, and others do not.
Yeah, and I think sometimes also it gets reduced to the most toxic and noxious voices on Twitter who are not direct representatives of the Bernie Sanders campaign. But it is also, I think, about rhetoric in which it's not about what your candidate needs to do to win, but about what other candidates are doing to make your side lose. Mm-hmm. And I think that even at times when there's some part of it that's true, whatever the reasons you see for Bernie not doing as well as you want him to do, to castigate the people that didn't support Bernie Sanders when voters exactly like that are the people you're going to need to pick up in the weeks to come. I don't think it's just negative. I think it's not helpful for yourself, for your own campaign.
I mean, ultimately, beyond, I think, all of that, with this, here's where Bernie Sanders' campaign sits right now, which is they had a great plan for winning in a multi-candidate field where you could win with 30 to 35% of the vote.
Right.
And that is not what this campaign is anymore. It transitioned into a essentially two-person race very quickly, and he has to significantly grow his coalition to be able to compete. And he is underperforming, and dramatically so, with the most important constituency in the Democratic Party. And so what his campaign, I think, has to do is figure out how he's going to improve his support of African American voters. And calling them simply a tool of the Democratic establishment, responding to the commands of Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar is not an effective strategy.
And I should say, too, like, this is all true even if we get to the end of the night and Bernie wins California and he pulls out a win in Texas, right?
Which seems very, very, very possible.
Which seems very possible, right? And so, but even if he does that, this is a much closer race than anyone in the Sanders campaign thought it would be, or many of us, most of us thought it would be just a couple weeks ago. And if, and we don't know what Mike Bloomberg is going to do, though we should say NBC News reported that he's going to reassess his campaign tomorrow. So Mike, doesn't sound like what you do when you're ready to forge ahead. So if Mike Bloomberg drops out, we haven't talked about Elizabeth Warren yet. We'll do that next time, but we don't know what she's going to do. But if this comes down to just Bernie and Biden, there is no question that even if Bernie does really well in California and Texas, he is going to need to have a new strategy. If the strategy before was, I'm just going to hit 30-35%, and then the vote's going to be split among the rest of the field.
I think Bernie knows how to attack Joe Biden, right? They know what they want to say about Joe Biden. They know their negative frame on Joe Biden. But I do think broadening out what his message is to bring in people is something they haven't always been as focused on. And I think there have been moments in the past few weeks where Bernie Sanders has acted like the nominee, acted like the person who was ready to bring the party together, been magnanimous, been generous, been optimistic, been positive in his rhetoric. And I think I say this as somebody, if I think Bernie Sanders should do that if he wants to be the nominee. I also think Bernie Sanders needs to do that if he wants to be president. It's not just about winning the nomination. It's about proving you're the right person to win the nomination.
I mean, the thing is that if you presume that at some point this will truly become a two-person race and that Warren and Bloomberg will no longer be in there, between the Warren and Bloomberg vote, much more of that is likely to naturally accumulate to Biden than Bernie.
We should talk about that because I do think there's an assumption among some folks on Twitter, media, in the progressive left that if Warren somehow drops out, that vote will go to Bernie. I don't know if it's as clean as Klobuchar and Pete dropping out and the vote going to Biden as Warren's vote automatically going to, because I think what you're seeing even tonight is that some of Warren's vote went to Joe Biden tonight. I mean, we haven't talked about Massachusetts yet, but it looks like Joe Biden could win Massachusetts, and Elizabeth Warren could come in second or third.
Yeah, the second choice preference data we had in polls, I think, is generally useless because the margin of error is really high.
Yeah.
It's particularly useless when it's old, and and we're seeing major momentum shifts like we just saw last week.
I also just want to have a hat tip to Dan Pfieffer, who one of the many reforms he called for was ranked choice voting, where people can decide who their first choice is, who their second choice is, who their third choice is, so that we don't have to prognosticate what some voters will do when another candidate drops out, and people can actually vote their conscience and vote who they think will be the best president rather than having to be strategic in the ballot box.
And if you early vote and your candidate drops out, you still have say in what happens.
And where did Dan call for that? I believe it's a book.
No, it was actually
it was an op-ed.
It was an op-ed.
Yeah, Crooked.com.
I had to turn in the book before the Iowa caucus system collapsed.
I figured it was just an opportunity to plug your book.
Plug your fucking book, Dan. You got a baby to feed. Dave Wasserman's projecting Warren third in Massachusetts, behind Biden first, Sanders second. Just FYI.
Yeah,
that's brutal.
That is tough. Not official from Wasserman, but he usually gets these things right.
Yeah,
so.
He's a smart guy.
Can I just throw in just a bup gay news? A lot of people may be wondering why I plugged a show called Everything's Gonna Be Okay. Here's one reason. It was on Freeform, a Disney property, and there's a lot of gay fucking in it. They got gay fucking on Disney. All right? Freeform. Hulu. Bup. That's gay news.
All right. Before we go, we just want everyone to subscribe, like the stream.
Yeah, do it.
YouTube.com/crookedmedia. Is that right?
Yes. Did you guys want to listen to Bernie?
No, we did the Bernie thing.
Okay.
So we're good. We don't need all this. I read too many lines from the speech to actually play the speech now.
I mean, is this all happening live for people saying?
Yeah, no, I have to.
Sausage made.
Look, we were going to play a Bernie speech. It took too long to get it.
John's
I read it
quoting
instead.
Obama from 2007 right in that profile where, I'm a better speechwriter than my speechwriter.
That's right. That's right. I'm a better fundraiser
Patrick
than my
Gaspard.
fundraisers. Yeah.
Deep cut.
All right. We'll be back.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Cricket Media Super Tuesday live stream. I'm Akilah Hughes.
I'm Gideon Resnick.
We are the hosts of What a Day. And, just a reminder, about a third of the delegates are awarded tonight. 14 states, plus American Samoa, Democrats. We've been watching all night. All right. Anyway, we do want to get one beautiful update from Steve Kornacki, but we should just call him Travis. Hey, Travis, what's going on over there?
Thanks, John. I'm Steve Kornacki, but I'm not in touch with any of my high school teachers. We've got not just one, we've got two updates, John, and they're big. First, up in Massachusetts, everyone thought it might be Elizabeth Warren. They thought Bernie might be coming in, but no, it's Joe. It's all about Joe up in Beantown. We got Joe in Massachusetts. And then out there in Utah, you know Utah, Salt Lake City, the Jazz, home of Steve Nash. We've got Bernie Sanders taking Utah. Big news in Utah. Big night for Bernie Sanders. Also just want to clarify, you should get vaccines. And the new law in Maine says that no, it's not a new law. They just didn't repeal one. There are no exemptions for religious purposes in Maine for vaccines. Vaccines are good. Back to you, John.
Yes, big night for vaccines.
Vaccines, they fucking rock.
Yeah, they're pretty tight. We're going to go through, I guess, some of the earlier results, too, just to make sure everybody's up to speed where we stand.
In case people did not know, some of the ones from earlier in the evening, Virginia went to Joe Biden. Alabama went to Joe Biden. Arkansas has been called for Biden. Colorado was called for Bernie Sanders. Minnesota was called for Joe Biden. North Carolina for Joe Biden. Oklahoma for Biden. Tennessee Biden. And we are still waiting on Texas and California. One other little piece of news about California. Apparently there have been some issues in terms of lines and machines. There's a possibility that the LA County polling locations at least stay open until 10. Either way, you should definitely stay in line if you are still in line and streaming this on your phone in line.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, if you're streaming it on your phone, look at you, you're in the future.
Yes.
It's pretty cool. Let's see, we've got some good cues out here. Priyanka wants to know, are you going to record WAD tonight? WAD Squad needs a pod squad tomorrow. She didn't say pod squad, but yeah, we are definitely hanging tough, recording an episode for you tonight for bright and early, in case you're somehow missing the stream.
Yeah, if you're missing the stream,
we're talking to the people who aren't missing the stream. So what am I talking about?
But if you're watching the stream and you're listening to the show, then you're doing right by yourself and God. So congratulations to you.
Yeah, God's a member of the WAD Squad.
Yes,
yeah. Let's continue talking about turnout. It's a big one, right? What do we got?
Yeah, so for turnout as well, if you folks were not tuned in from earlier, one of the best examples of the high turnout that we are seeing tonight is in Virginia. Virginia's turnout hit record levels, beating 2008. So that is pretty awesome. I think, Virginia, too, historically, since the Trump election, has been a place where a lot of the kind of early resistance efforts, if you will, began, both locally and at the gubernatorial level in Virginia, too. So that's great to see people are still jazzed up over there. And in a lot of the other states, too, I think we are seeing some good turnout as well, but we want to wait until we get a little bit more coming in. Mm-hmm. Okay, we have a delegate question.
Ooh.
How do the delegates get awarded? It is not winner take all. It's proportional. That's not part of the question. That is part of the answer. Basically, I thought they were being smart and they were going to say
they were trying to tell you the answer.
Right. And nobody tells me the answers, but God, the WAD listener. So it's not winner take all. It's a proportional system. 15% statewide, 15% in congressional districts, unless you are in Texas, where they are state Senate districts. Mm-hmm. So you have to meet those thresholds in order to earn delegates. If you are hitting those, that's really great for you. Congratulations. Mm-hmm. But the best case scenario is if you're hitting them and other people aren't hitting them. Mm-hmm. Because if other people are hitting them, then you're dividing a nice pizza pie in more pieces. And if it's just you and some other competitor, then you're getting a bigger share.
That's right.
Yeah.
We've also gotten this question a lot tonight. Given the results that we have so far, where does that leave the campaigns? Just want to reiterate, we don't have the full results. So anything we say is going to be just whatever we think, not based. But yeah, I think that the campaigns that are remaining, Tulsi, She has one delegate, American Samoa.
Listen, we couldn't tell you what she was doing like a year ago, so we can't really tell you now.
Yeah, it turns out she seems like she's not fazed by any results. So
yeah,
I imagine she's gonna aloha in either direction.
Yeah.
Let's see, Bloomberg. We know that apparently there will be a reassessment tomorrow.
Right.
That is what's been said.
The Bloomberg campaign was saying they're gonna, take a look at things tomorrow. But I think the big thing for him, without making any predictions as to what he actually does, is their whole strategy, right? Their whole gambit was, we're skipping the early states.
Yeah.
We're gonna pump tons of money into Super Tuesday, and that's when we're gonna, peel away voters from either Biden or one of the other candidates. And it's just not happening.
Yeah.
There was an example, I think, from Tennessee where it was something like $6 million from Bloomberg went into the state, and the Biden campaign had considerably less money there, and Biden won. So if the crux of his argument is kind of falling flat on its face, it makes it harder for him to make the case.
That's right.
That said, they were non-committal tonight.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then with Warren, again, we haven't really heard anything, I don't think. But, I think it'll shake out to where she ends up being viable. And I guess that's all the info that we kind of have for now. We do have more audience questions. Before I get to that, I want to address the YouTube stream watchers who are in the comments. I have seen your cannoli discourse. I'm not sure if a cannoli is a hot dog or a burrito.
Oh, is that the debate?
Yeah.
Huh.
Some people say it's a ravioli, but it's open at the end. So I'm more inclined to say hot dog.
Yeah, I feel like it's a hot dog, but it also depends on if you land on a hot dog being a sandwich, which tore families apart in the mid-aughts.
Yeah, we can't go back. We can't go back. Let's see. An audience question from Megan Williams. I live in New Jersey, which means my vote in the primary doesn't matter. Is there a way for everyone's voice to be heard?
Megan, don't be so negative. Of course your vote matters. Anytime you are, voting for anything, locally, presidential, whatever, it matters. So
yeah, the popular vote isn't nothing.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm from Kentucky. Like I said earlier, I'm planned to vote there this year because, it's the home state. And look, the state typically goes red, but there's a chance that we could get rid of Mitch McConnell, and I'm not giving up on that. And so, you just got to vote with your heart. And it's really not about your individual vote mattering or not mattering. It's about being heard and being a part of the process, and we want you to be a part of it. So thank you.
And doing it for people that might not have the opportunity to vote because of terrible systems that have been in place for years, suppressing the American people.
That's right.
Not to be too negative, but get out there and do it, so it matters.
That's right.
We have another question from Fogglesworth. Is that?
That's what I'm reading.
That is a sick first or last name.
I think it's fake.
Okay, well, whatever. It might not be. I don't want to offend. When I go canvassing, should I dress up to look respectable or dress down to look approachable? Well, we consulted a member of our team who does some dabbles in canvassing, if you will, and he said he wears a plain shirt. So take that advice and run with it.
Yeah, maybe it's easier to get people to open the door if you're not wearing anything that is discerning. Also, you're going to be out there. I feel like the weather's heating up. Just be comfortable. The most important thing is the footwear, I think. And you got to have like a thick sole and something that isn't too hard on your knees.
I'm thinking Crocs, no socks.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, like
Uggs, if it's cold still where you are.
Uggs, if it's still cold. Just, be approachable. Make a fun conversation, make a good connection. Maybe, you'll go out on a date after you secure a vote with the person that you're talking to. All of these things are possibilities,
Scrolling through some of the questions. Turn Kentucky blue, that's right. Thank you. It's not a question, but we love it. Let's see, how can I vote in Kentucky if you live in Los Angeles? It's a good question. Technically, it's where I still pay taxes, and my mother lives there, and that's the home address I use. So that's where I am going to vote. I'm voting absentee,
That's how it works. That is how it works, folks.
You can do that.
We have another question from Michael Appler. Do you think Warren not dropping out before Super Tuesday cost Bernie a big win? Had she dropped out, would Bernie have come out on top? Well, two things about this. We don't always know the way that one candidate leaving impacts the race for another candidate.
Right. I mean, a good example would be Buttigieg. We don't know.
We
really didn't know. And even after his endorsement, there's no way of knowing who the people who were voting for him if they were going to continue,
Yeah, it's a lot of anecdotal stuff until we have more information. And to the second point, the other thing that we're kind of waiting on that I think is worth sort of clarifying in terms of how people are approaching the delegate math here is we don't have the final numbers from Texas, and we have nothing from California yet. And so there's a very clear trend in the other states so far that Joe Biden is doing very, very well throughout the night. But those 2 states alone are worth something like half of what the total night is. So if something happens and changes there, then we could be talking about a different way that we're looking at, the entire map across the board.
For sure. Someone said that what I am doing is voter fraud. I assure you it is not. Also, I found out that if I were planning to primary, or I guess to actually run against Mitch McConnell, I actually only have to live in Kentucky the day of the election. So that's how politics works in Kentucky. Google, it's your friend. Let's see what else we got in here.
Should we handle this one? How do we encourage people to vote? That one?
Yes.
How do we encourage people to vote even if their candidate doesn't win? That's a great question.
So important.
Yeah, and it's not an easy one to answer. One of the examples that I could pull from the time that we were in Iowa was where you do have a caucus situation, and so you actually see people sort of literally like making the case to somebody else. We saw somebody on the Sanders team making a case to one of the voters for Pete in the room, basically just talking through the issues, saying what are important things to you. This young guy was saying, climate change was one of the issues, and then through their conversation, they got to a point where, he ended up physically walking over to the Sanders side. So things like that, I think, are really important when people are having conversations, just sort of saying, let's level on some of the stuff that we all agree on and think is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely think the mood at Crooked has been like, look, the most important thing is getting Trump out of the White House. So like we all have our own preferences, and we're lucky to work in a place where we can like say those things out loud. But I definitely think that like the eye has to be on the prize. And, even in some of like phrasing of the questions, there's been this like, is the left gonna like leave the Democratic Party? We're all left of Trump. Trump has children in cages. There's a lot happening here. So I think it's important to remember that like progress is progress, even if it's not, the progress that your candidate is purporting to do. I think that we just have to be on the side of getting this dude out of the White House. We can't lose any more Supreme Court justices. We can't, lose any more rights for women. So yeah, I think that we just have to be open-minded and maybe, take a step back. It is still early.
It is early, yeah.
It's March.
Yeah. We have another question. Do you think Wisconsin should vote earlier in the primary given their importance in the general election? That's really interesting. And it sort of dovetails with, we've gotten a couple on primary process in general.
Yeah.
I think that in at least one, if not many ways, the primary is going to be different the next time we have a competitive one on the Democratic side. And I think that'll go for order of states. I think it'll go for the lack of caucuses that we're probably going to see at that point. So a lot of these things will probably get talked about there. In terms of Wisconsin, it's a really interesting question. If you flipped things and put, say, Florida, Wisconsin, maybe another Midwest state earlier on, how would that
affect the turnout, right?
Yeah, I don't know. There's been conversations about things like Nevada going first, even like Virginia going early. Basically, Democrats are hoping to kind of find states that look more broadly like the electorate that they can kind of move up.
For sure. Mortal Wombat wants to know if I finished Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I did. In fact, I finished it twice because I didn't start from the beginning again, but I thought maybe if I beat Ganon after completing some of the memories, they would show me something more exciting, but no, it really just ended. And Zelda was like, thanks for freeing me. And then it was like roll credits. And I'm like, do you know how much? I spent 170 fucking hours. Like, are you joking? So I'm hoping if they come out with Breath of the Wild 2 this year, which it is rumored, and if coronavirus is popping off, like I'm going to need something to do in my house, maybe they will just try to impress us more with the ending because, wow, I really felt cheated at the end. Let's see what else is going on in these comments. Blue no matter what. That's right. Breath of the Wild, lots of Breath of the Wild people. Have I played Luigi's Mansion? I've not.
Oh, that's a great game. Is that on Switch currently?
Yeah, dude.
Interesting.
Let's see.
I keep having pizza burps, and I apologize for.
I mean, I don't smell them. You don't have to describe them.
They smell like pizza.
All right. Well, we are at 7:45, so that's a good way to end Pizza Burps in the Vicinity. We did promise them something.
Are we gonna actually? Are we gonna?
I think we can try.
If we try and fail, we might have to.
It's fine. They'll clip it and it'll live forever. All right. I mean, can someone count us in? We're gonna try to do the headlines. Count me in. 3, 2, 1. Headlines.
I think that was pretty much it.
Good.
There it is. With that, folks.
Thank you. Wow, live claps. Come on, go off.
We are out of here. We are out of time.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of Super Tuesday. That's our time. And the White House is starting to look pretty good. There's windows now.
And stay in line. And
stay
then vote
in line.
later.
That's right. If you're in line, stay in line. Okay, that's good.
And we're back. I'm Jon Lovett, as always. Once again, I'm here with Sarah Lazarus.
Also, as always.
Writer, author.
Humanitarian.
Humanitarian, raconteur. Again, just to catch you up, we're kind of an odd couple. She's the chillest person that I've ever met. In fact, been trying to.
He's been trying to razz me.
Trying to get some sort of a read out of her ever since she started. Still nothing. Plays it close
to the vest. Yeah.
Close to the vest. Speaking of close to the vest, there's a reason we're wearing increasing amounts of Vote Save America related merchandise, and that's because we're here to try to get you to help us raise money for our Keep It All on the Field fund. Sarah, over to you.
It's actually Leave It All on the Field.
What'd I say?
Keep it all on the field.
Dummy.
Which is great if it's already on the field. Keep it there. But if it's not, please leave more on it.
Yep, that's right. You want to. I feel like Joe Biden. I'm crushing it. Crushing it.
Can we get a protester up here?
Yeah. Hey, get somebody who wants to stop dairy.
Not me.
Because I can tell you, as an Ashkenazi Jew, I am equally lactose intolerant. And again, I don't know why I'm doing discarded material from season 2 of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but here we are, promoting our Leave It All on the Field fund. Sarah, over to you.
It's a great way to support the nominee, whoever it is. We're funding volunteers who will be not volunteers. They're going to be paid. They're going to be paid to canvass and phone bank and do all the groundwork that we need to win in November.
1,000 people. 1,000 people.
Have you ever seen 1,000 people?
Have you ever seen 1,000 people? It's never been seen.
This will be the first time that there's ever been 1,000 people doing the same thing in history.
Except for that one time, a bunch of people tried to jump to see if it would shake things.
Oh yeah. Okay, Idiots. Second time.
Idiots. Can't feel that. It's not enough mass. Earth is so big.
I mean, maybe though.
Speaking of the Earth, it's in trouble, and we need to elect a Democratic president. How are we going to do that when the Koch brothers are funneling money into the iPads of goobers, knocking on doors all across the country?
We got to get our own goobers with iPads.
No, not goobers.
Okay, our own.
Cool dudes and dudettes. Ugh, God,
I'd
murder
prefer to
me.
be a goober.
I will never. Honestly, stop picking get the camera back up.
Get the
camera back up. I fell down on MSNBC. I fell down. All right.
And he got back up again.
And I got back up again. Like who? Joe Biden, who we have always loved.
And always will.
Speaking of Joe Biden, or Bernie Sanders, or Elizabeth Warren from very far downtown.
Tulsi Gabbard really pull one out.
Tulsi Gabbard from American Samoa coming in for the win. Each of these candidates is going to be behind when they become the nominee because Donald Trump, he's running basically unopposed. There was a couple of silly folks, some goofs, some oafs who ran against him. But Donald Trump is just building the organization he needs to win. So we need to put 1,000 people on the ground. That means going to votesaveamerica.com/field, put 1,000 organizers on the ground so that we have the support we need to win. We crossed 350,000. I set a goal of 400,000. We're not even close.
Let's get it together.
Votesaveamerica.com/field. Votesaveamerica.com/field.
I want to say it. Votesaveamerica.com/field.
Any closing thoughts?
No, that's it.
Unbelievable. Just so chill. We out? We can be.
I think we're done here.
I feel like that we really put a button on it.
Several buttons now.
Are we still going?
Is this another button?
You know what? You know what, Elijah? You know what, Matt? Never shouted your name here before. Welcome to the fucking club. Don't laugh. Do something. Somebody. Are we still going? I'm
gonna wipe my whole body with this towel. I'm sweating so much.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness.
Leo, do you have anything to say?
That's Pundit.
No, it's not. It's Leo.
How'd Leo get in here without his master? We were out, right? We probably are out.
VoteSaveAmerica.com.
VoteSaveAmerica.com/field. Get the other people in. Get the straight ones in here.
I've had this dream before.
This is a dream? More and more close. Are we out now? We're still on?
Good Lord.
So I'm here to report we are very much alive. And make no mistake about it, this campaign will send down
Can we address the beautiful White House painting?
I think so. Hey, we're on.
Oh, hey guys, we're back.
Hey.
Polls have closed in California.
Did everyone vote?
I don't know.
I mean, everyone on
Oh,
this
here.
camera.
Yeah.
yeah.
God, I hear you meant everyone in California. No, there's people still online.
And if you're in line,
Stay in line.
stay
How
in
are you
line.
watching this?
Yeah, if you
Phones.
Yeah.
Magic.
If you're in line,
That's how
if you're in
Quibi's
line,
gonna work.
hey, do yourself a favor. Just tell all the people around you in the line why you're laughing so damn hard.
I just got
No way
in
having such a
the
good time.
I just got in the elevator with Katzenberg from Quibi.
Whoa.
Any of you listeners
Do you have
want
any more
to
names you want to drop over there?
to stream? My toes. Can we just address that
I
our
saw
incredible
Chris
team,
Evans at the mall once. What?
Our incredible team has been painting a White House replica all night long.
Look at it.
It looks beautiful.
And I asked them why, and they said the journey is the destination. So
And it is. It is.
It is.
incredible, guys.
You know,
Travis Kornacki, we have some calls here at the top of the hour.
Yes, we got big ones, John. Thanks so much. Look, I'm Steve Kornacki, but I've run out of jokes. Okay, so I'm going to go do a quick recap about where we've been. We got a bunch of Bernie, we got a bunch of Biden, but we got 2 calls right now. One call, Bernie Sanders, the winner of California.
Wow.
That's a big one. They're
He
calling it
just called it.
early. You know what that
Wow.
means. Bernie's definitely the nominee no matter what, John. And then also something I want to
Fake
point
news.
out is that in Maine, this is a big House district. District 128, it went to Trump by +8. These are things that I know on my own. It's not on the paper. And we just flipped it. A guy named Kevin O'Connell, which was also the name of my gym teacher, won it by 15 points. This is bad for Susan Collins, John. I'm going to put this up for Maine. Big bad Kev.
I can't believe I learned actual news.
I know.
From Travis.
I mean, you didn't because John mentioned it in the last segment.
He doesn't listen when he's not talking.
I was trying to think. I was trying to think of more gay news.
All right.
He mentioned it in the last segment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we were all
definitely
here.
mentioned it.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Travis, where are you going?
I'm tired.
You got
You mentioned Massachusetts, right? Yeah.
Massachusetts,
I see
we've
Joe
already
Biden
called
saying
it for Joe Biden.
Joe Biden wins
we did it
Massachusetts.
already. We'll do it again. Joe Biden, he's won Massachusetts. It's really big for him, John. Everyone loves Joe Biden. He's going to win the nomination.
Travis, any final thoughts for the people watching at home? What you've learned tonight? Bring your expertise to bear.
I've learned that I hate being a character actor. It's not something I ever want to do for a living. But I also love attention, John.
Okay.
All right.
Guys, everybody, give it up for Travis.
Give it up for
Howard.
Travis.
Wacky Tobacco, Steve Kornacki. It could have not worked. It really could have not worked, but it worked.
And it almost worked, John.
It worked. It worked. Hey. You believe in you.
I have a Google Doc of Steve Kornacki jokes if you want to look at it later, John.
There's
about gay news.
There's an open desk at MSNBC.
All right, so let's talk about delegates a little bit. So that California news, Nate Cohn just said that according to the exit polls, it looks like they have Bernie up around 15 in California, which is quite big. Nate's at the New York Times had him favored by 9 points, so if it's 15, the delegate estimate gets very close. So Biden still might have the edge, but it gets pretty close.
For the night.
For the night.
Which is a massive
still
win
crazy
for Biden. Right?
And of course, Texas is still out and close. But it almost, I don't want to say it doesn't matter who wins Texas, but it seems like either Bernie wins Texas by a little bit or Biden does. But the delegates are fairly split in that state, so it doesn't seem like anyone gets a very big lead out of Texas, the second biggest state of the night. Okay, so let's talk about a couple things before we go. Joe Biden gave his victory speech, I guess. Yeah, well, victory for a whole bunch of states. Already, and I think we have a clip from that we can listen to now, and then we can talk about it a little bit. Oh, we need headphones.
Well, just tell us what it is.
Just describe it.
Just describe it.
I'll listen.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
listen. Here we go. We got headphones. This is very high tech.
I'm doing it like
We
this
on
because it
still?
looks cooler.
Yeah, we're on.
Oh, cool.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to report.
I don't hear anything.
I'm listening.
Very much alive.
There he is.
And make no mistake about it.
That's all the way down.
This campaign will send Donald Trump packing. This campaign is taking off. Join us. To those folks listening, go to JoeBiden.com. Sign up, volunteer, contribute if you can. We need you, we want you, and there's a place for you in this campaign. People are talking about a revolution. We started a movement. We've increased turnout. And the turnout's turned out for us. That can deliver us to a moment where we can do extraordinary things.
All right. So that was Joe Biden. We just spent some time talking about Bernie Sanders and what his challenges are going forward. What's Joe Biden's challenges as a candidate going forward now that he's going to have a Bernie Sanders who very much wants to beat him and is probably going to come after him, and he is a newly minted frontrunner, and or at least a co-frontrunner again. And we have seen what happens to the frontrunners at the top of the field.
I'll say one challenge for Joe Biden. He's got to perform.
Yeah,
he has to perform. He gave the best speech of his time as a candidate on Saturday. He did I think an okay to good job tonight. I thought it was like pretty good, but again, it was getting looser, getting a little further from the kind of tight message he did in South Carolina. He's going to have a debate on with Bernie Sanders, possibly also with Tulsi Gabbard, maybe with Elizabeth Warren if she's still in, but who knows. But regardless, that is going to be a lot of time on a debate stage for him to demonstrate that he will continue to earn the confidence of people who are just very scared about losing Donald Trump.
What do you guys think?
I mean, he's going to have to keep his gains, right? Which is Bernie Sanders, his numbers are the people he has had for the last 3 months. They have been with him. Many of them voted for him in 2016. Biden has consolidated a lot of voters, particularly these college-educated voters who have been Warren, Pete, Klobuchar, Bloomberg, et cetera. And he's going to have to keep them under scrutiny because when candidates have received scrutiny, these voters have gone looking for a safer place to go.
Right.
And so
now, there's not many safer places to go at this point.
Well, I mean, Bernie can make
That's
a
what I'm
pitch
saying.
of that. Right.
It's
Bernie
Bernie,
can make a
it's gonna
pitch
be
of that,
Bernie or
right?
Biden at some point.
And so, I think Lovett is right, is that performance is a huge part of this. And it's performance and message. And I thought his speech in South Carolina was great. Tonight was still, it's a victory rally. It doesn't mean anything really, but there's no message there, right? It's just like, we're winning, which is good for tonight. But tomorrow you're going to have to make a case for why you should be winning.
Yeah, I mean.
No, I mean, look, he's done incredibly well in the states with a higher population of African American voters, and that's critically important for any Democrat to win the general election and the primary. But also, the narrative around Joe Biden has always been that he was Scranton Joe, that he could go into Rust Belt states and win voters there. And so I think people will likely look to Michigan, which is a state that Bernie Sanders won in 2016, and treat it like a bellwether. They might look to Missouri, which Hillary won in 2016, and treat it like a bellwether. So there's going to be all these tests which may be artificial or meaningful or not. He's also, you already saw Congress trying to kick back up the Burisma bullshit. They leaked some letter to a CBS News reporter who's really a half-reformed Fox News reporter, so take it with a grain of salt. But, also tonight, Joe Biden thought that his wife was on his right and his sister was on his left, but they switched sides, and he reversed the order, and people are, treating that as some major gaffe online, right? So everyone's looking for him to make a gaffe. That's been a narrative around him for his career, and it can be distracting, and it can make people question his ability to take on Trump. So there's going to be a lot of added bullshit to deal with.
Yeah, and two things to say about that. One, I agree about the performance thing 100%. I think he gave a fantastic speech in South Carolina. Tonight was much looser, to say the least. And I hope that just because he has had such a big night tonight, he and his team don't think, we're fine, we don't have to, we got it. I would make sure he has a very disciplined stump speech that he sticks to, that he uses prompters at some of these events. In terms of his message, I think he has the decency message, which gets you so far, and I think it is part of the equation. I think the other part of the equation, and he started that a little bit tonight, is to talk about economic issues and talk about sort of, because like Bernie's going to be coming at him with policy, and you know, this campaign is going to be Bernie saying, here's Joe Biden's record on Medicare, Social Security, other stuff. Here's mine. I'm the person who can fight for the working class. Joe Biden's not. And so working class Joe, Scranton Joe, as you said, is going to have to show up along with, and by the way, this is an election about decency, Joe. Yeah. Like he has to combine both of those messages. I do think, though, to the mix-up thing, you know, there's a good argument to be made that Joe Biden was underestimated by a lot of people in the media and a lot of people on the progressive left the entire campaign, including the four of us at this table. And I think one thing to keep in mind is, you know, gaffes or screw-ups that are a big deal on Twitter are not really a big deal to most people watching. And we watched that mix-up before we saw everyone's reaction on Twitter. And, you know, Biden recognized it immediately, and he's like, they switched sides behind me. And, you know, everyone kind of laughed it off, and it was fine. And then on Twitter, everyone's like, this man is crazy. What's going on? You know, and it's like, one thing to keep in mind is most voters do not behave like, again, back to Twitter's not real life.
Well, people aren't on Twitter. I mean, they don't even use it. These controversies exist and die on this stupid platform that they created to torture us and ruin our lives. And the only reason it's relevant is because a bunch of blue checkmark journalists in New York and D.C. read the shit.
And it's not to say that he doesn't need incredible discipline and way more discipline than he's shown to win.
No, he needs more.
Not just the primary, but the general. But, you know, we have to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a really small, dumb thing that happened. But it is, I think, instructive just in that I think a lot of people who maybe didn't see the moment saw people write on Twitter, oh, my God, Joe Biden grabbed the wrong hand. And now it's a completely disqualifying event when it really was just a kind of harmless, sweet moment. And I wonder how often I've been doing that myself in some of the, you know, with my being critical of Joe Biden during his debates.
To talk to you about that. Maybe we should do it
I just keep grabbing Tommy's hand and like, Tommy, I don't hold hands. He's not the host I hold hands with.
We should point out, too, there was this scary moment on stage where these fucking dairy protesters who protested Bernie and Elizabeth Warren and now Joe Biden charged the stage. And thanks to Jill Biden and Simone Sanders tackling them, you know, it was a pretty scary moment, though. But good for Simone just tweeted, I broke a nail, #Super Tuesday.
Hey, everybody out there that may or may not be a protester, good for you. So I support your right. Protest, yell at the back of an event. Don't charge the stage. You can get shot. Yeah. You got to be real fucking careful. That's not a safe thing to do.
So the other thing we should talk about is Biden, of course, wins Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren's home state. I haven't seen the latest results. I don't know if she's second or third. At one point she was in third, but either way, what does Elizabeth Warren do from here? And as I'm asking that question, there's a message to supporters that they just sent out. There are 6 more primaries just 1 week away, and we need your help to keep up the momentum. Where does Elizabeth Warren go from here?
I mean, look, I think they're going to wait and count all the delegates that come out of congressional districts or state senate districts. And like we were saying earlier, in California too. And that is 2/3 of the delegates allocated tonight will come out of congressional district apportionment of delegates. So she might come out of tonight with a whole bunch of leverage, more momentum than we thought. I still think it's a very tough climb for her. I think she's run an incredible campaign, but a bunch of things didn't break her way, and she's probably going to be considerably behind Bernie and Biden at the end of the night.
What do you think, Dan?
I mean, I think that she's going to have to make a decision about how she wants to do this, because it was a very, very, very narrow path before tonight, and it is incredible. It's much more narrow now. And the convention play doesn't work as well. The convention play that she was talking about, where she would accumulate these delegates to go to the convention, worked in a 4, 5, 6 candidate field where everyone had some delegates. But you have 2 candidates who are bumping up against the majority number. The idea that a third candidate with many fewer delegates is going to be the choice of the convention seems a much more challenging prospect to me. And I think, look, in the beginning of part of this race where Elizabeth Warren was dominating, she was running the best campaign. She had the best message. I think she remains the candidate with the best message. I think she remains the best messenger of all the candidates out there. She obviously has the most policies and is clearly the best debater. But things have broken almost in every which way they could break against her. They have broken against her for months now, starting in Iowa. And they had a campaign that was very dependent on winning Iowa. And then because that was the best state for her among the first 4, and did not do that and came in third.
Yeah. No, I think it's tough. I mean, from the exit polls in California, she might have hit, she's hovering around the threshold at 15% according to the exit. So she gets delegates out of California. Looks like she gets delegates out of Colorado, obviously Massachusetts. But that's not that many states. And one of them is her home state. And I'm trying to think of the path like extra hard because it was hard for a lot of people to think about the path for Joe Biden a couple weeks ago, and here he is. But I think that, I mean, unless like she stays in and it's just the three of them, and Biden and Sanders both have this like terrible political collapse, you know, in the polls, and suddenly both of them, like, and suddenly she starts winning states. Math-wise, it's not even enough to, it's definitely not enough to get a plurality at this point. I mean, I think the math's against her on that, so.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of Warren supporters who feel really let down, not by their candidate, but by the sense that I think there is a true belief among a lot of candidates, but especially among Warren supporters, that this person is the most prepared, the best debater, as Dan said, who ran a great campaign, a well-organized campaign, and who, for reasons that were not totally in her control, lost momentum in the weeks before Iowa. And I do think that there are mistakes that the Warren campaign made, and there are choices the Warren campaign made, but every president ran an imperfect race. And I do think we'll talk about the way in which gender played a role in Elizabeth Warren's inability to make an electability argument, some of which I think is a self-fulfilling prophecy, some of which I think is born of fear that a lot of people had looking at polls and worrying about defeating Donald Trump. Whatever you may think about those fears, I think the fact that her campaign was ultimately unable to answer them significantly, I think played a role in this. And, we've talked about this before, but, the Warren supporters we've met, the Warren supporters we know, there's a kind of like a maturity and goodness to the way that they've approached this campaign. And I think sometimes they paid a price for that just in the way the kind of like politics of this moment have unfolded.
I mean, I think we should be super clear that the driving factor here is misogyny, both real and projected.
Yeah.
Right. And in a campaign where electability has been pushed through the false narrative that the way you win the presidency is through convincing a handful of conservative white guys in Wisconsin, that has been a conversation that has been very detrimental to everyone who wasn't a white male in this race. And I think the best piece of data for that is when Elizabeth Warren was winning, and there decided to be there was a sort of an electability panic about her. Mm-hmm. It was centered entirely around her support for Medicare for All.
And Bernie didn't get any of that shit.
Yes, as he has pointed out, Bernie wrote that damn bill, and that conversation has never been about him. And that, the same thing with Kamala Harris, there was no margin of error for women candidates of color in particular, and other candidates of color. And that is something that is a product of, I think, the existential fear people have had about Trump, the misunderstood narrative of 2016, and a primary process that started in very, very white states.
I will just say, because this is a narrative now that's going around on the left. Ilhan Omar just tweeted, "Imagine if the progressives consolidated last night like the moderates consolidated. Who would have won? That's what we should be analyzing. I feel confident a united progressive movement would have allowed us, for us to build together and win Minnesota and other states we narrowly lost." I just don't know that there is the evidence to support that claim in the numbers we're seeing. I mean, we can wait and see, but I don't know that if you... First of all, I don't think you can just add Warren's vote onto Bernie's vote in all these states.
And it's not enough in a lot of them.
I was going to say, second, it's not enough in a lot of them. Third, you're forgetting that Joe Biden very likely would be doing even better if Mike Bloomberg wasn't in the race, right? So it's not just Joe Biden versus Warren plus Sanders. It's Joe Biden, and also, I don't think, and we've seen Warren supporters, I think a good chunk of them go to Bernie, but when you've asked second choice on that many times, they go to Pete, they go to Amy, they go to Biden.
Warren supporters are primarily made up of the exact voters who have surged to Biden at the end here.
Yeah.
College-educated white voters. That has been her base.
It's also just
Bernie how
often have we, just in the past few weeks, seen so many people from the same camp attacking Elizabeth Warren for being a moderate, for not being true to the progressive cause. Both of those things can't be true. It can't be that she wasn't actually progressive and that her being in the race hurt the progressive cause.
And I will just say, Bernie's press secretary, Brianna Joy Gray, just responded to Ilhan Omar's thing with an eyeball emoji. If just free advice to the Bernie Sanders campaign. If your message coming out of tomorrow is that we would have done better if not for Elizabeth Warren, it is not going to help you win the nomination. It's not going to help you. Just like that.
Bernie Sanders answered this question much better when he was asked if she should drop out.
He was very gracious about it.
Yeah, AOC did too.
Yes,
so it's
because
a decision up to her.
Because AOC and Bernie Sanders are good at politics.
Yeah, they're good at politics. By the way, Dave Wasserman is projecting Biden wins the Texas primary,
which is amazing. I don't know how.
Show us your work, man. Come on.
That guy is very good.
No, he's very good. I will not believe this shit until I got Travis Hellwig in here. All right, there's only one person who I let tell me who won an election, and it's
wacky
comedy writer from the East Side.
No, but like back to the Warren discussion. I mean, there's some data out of the exit polls that shows her hovering right around 15%, which could mean she gets a considerable number of delegates
here in
out
California.
Of California.
California.
Sorry, I was pulling out of California.
Any final thoughts before we wrap this up, guys? Anything we missed? I don't think so. It's been wonderful.
I think the cautionary note is if Bernie Sanders ends up winning California by the margin in the exit polls and Warren does not make threshold,
right,
but then he's going to net a lot of delegates.
And it could end up being a wash between him and. Well, I mean, it could end up being tied, or maybe even. There's still a possibility Sanders comes out of this a few delegates.
The narrative here is expectations, which is the conversation that we've been having, or has been having for a very long time, is that Bernie Sanders had a very real chance of exiting Super Tuesday with an insurmountable pledge delegate lead. That does not appear like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But he still could exit with a lead, and we may not know the full magnitude of that lead for 7 to 10 days.
Dan, can I ask you a question?
But if they come out tied, if they come out close to tied tonight, everyone should know that you then have a 2-person race, and it's really up for grabs. And you have some really high stakes debates and events going forward, and I don't know, no one should leave this feeling despondent or worried.
Well, and one thing to note. 36 states left. Bernie Sanders only won 10 of those 36 states in 2016.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask Dan what he thought that okay, let's say we end up out of this night relatively close in delegates. Maybe Bernie does ultimately eke it out. Maybe Biden ekes it out. If they come out close to one another, do you believe that puts Biden in the sort of pole position, or does that put Sanders in the pole position?
I think it puts Biden based on demographics of the remaining states in 2016 performance. Biden would have an advantage based on at least on the coalition that he showed tonight. And a really big important state to look at is Florida, where in a 2-person race, Bernie has in recent polls. Now, some of those polls were fairly or unfairly taken right in the middle of the controversy around his Castro comments, but Bernie hovering was at below threshold in Florida in one of those polls. And so if Biden is going to win Florida by a gigantic margin in a 2-person race, then that is a trove of delegates that is very problematic. So Florida, New York, Georgia are these 3 big states. I think New York is up for grabs. Florida and Georgia would lean towards Biden.
And just a final thought here. We might know the results of the next week states and then even the March 17th states before we know all of the results in California.
California, you know what? They go very slowly. Each ballot,
really
they look at it, they weigh it.
From future weeks in before we find
Every state should do it like California. Every state.
What do you mean?
That we should. The reason that we don't know the results is because we have a state that wants people to vote. So you can get everyone.
By mail,
anyone can get vote by mail. You just have to request it, and it just has to be postmarked by today. And everyone else has reverse engineered their plan from how they can get their election results announced by Steve Kornacki, real or fake. And California does it in Colorado and Oregon and Washington in ways that ensure people get to vote. So we should do more of that.
I do say. I also say I'm sort of questioning. I'm a Democrat, and I've always loved early vote because I think it gives more people the opportunities to vote. But clearly, early vote in a competitive primary with this many people, maybe not the greatest idea.
That's why Lovett said, that's why we should go to ranked choice voting.
Yeah. It's just, I think one loser tonight is early voting.
Yeah,
I mean, the Democratic primary process needs to be
that's
fixed, yes.
Yeah. Well, can we end on some kind of a high note here?
Sure.
Let's end on a high note.
Nah.
And that's our live stream. No, I think that, first of all, we've seen a lot of increased turnout, and I think that's a really good thing. I also just think, for everybody watching, I think there's a lot of people that are maybe surprised to see Biden, who really felt like tonight. I think there's probably a lot of people who were going in tonight thinking that, my guy Bernie is on the precipice of being the nominee, and now they're looking at a really hard fight. And I know that that's probably dispiriting, and there's probably a lot of Warren supporters who feel pretty disappointed tonight. But I guess I hope coming out of tonight that people remember to rally behind who the nominee will be, no matter who it is. That's all.
And by the way, congrats to all the Biden supporters that have been
yelling at us
underestimated and ignored the entire time. Your guy won, and good for you, and especially the people that we know on that campaign and the people who have organized for that campaign, and they have a long way to go too, but good for you guys. All right, and all those hardworking Bloomberg staffers too.
Yeah, you cash those fucking checks.
They get those checks till November, no matter when Mike Bloomberg gets out.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
way to play your cards right.
Hey, I mean, talking about really ending on a high note. Mike Bloomberg still could spend a lot of money helping whoever the Democratic nominee is in the fall, and that's a good thing.
Yeah,
we're all grateful to Mike Bloomberg.
High checking.
We'll take the money. Bye, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Thank you, guys. It was great.
Good work.